Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the High Roller Super Millions Final Table coverage. Well, I'll be one of your commentators and the host, Kevin van der Kooi, also known as Rotterdam in the StarCraft world. And of course, as every Tuesday or Wednesday morning for him, I am joined by Nana Noko. What's up, Nano?
Yo, what's up? Another series, another whole cards up, another exciting one. I'm pretty sure. Last week was pretty fun. We had like a bunch of high rollers playing it, and they just really beat out all the pros. And then, the final hand, one of the high rollers like, I'm gonna call it off with 6-4 offsuit, and was just like, yeah, I'm done with this tournament.
Wouldn't it have been so cool if the other guy had like 6 deuce and he actually had him crushed? Like that would have been something. Yeah, guys, of course, you guys kind of know the drill by now. At 8 p.m., at least Central European summertime, we start with the pre-show. This is basically 30 minutes of us just having a little chat with each other. And then we go through the players that made it to the final table one by one. We, of course, start with the chip leader and we kind of make our way down. And then in exactly 29 minutes from now, we will be bringing you guys the coverage again of the final table. Whole cards up. You guys know the drill. Last week was an absolute roller coaster. I feel like we have something to talk about every week, of course, right? Because we often have some of the biggest names in poker making it deep. We see some cool plays. Last week, if you ask me how was the final table, I don't even know where to begin.
It was explosive, right? Like it was one of the final tables where we saw many hands that just weren't played how you expect them to play. There was a lot of flip-flops and just crazy flops. It's just the hands were very crazy, especially from Holiday and LKS. They were very aggressive. They were shoving it in, whether they had it or not. And, all the pros just got knocked out one by one. And it's just like, you don't know what to expect. We didn't have some of the bigger names at that final table, but it was probably one of the best ones to watch for us.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of fun. LK also sent me a DM afterwards. And he's like, oh, I actually know LKS. He is a regular at Kings. He plays there pretty often. And he linked me his hand and mob page as well. He's like, I forgot to tell you guys in advance. I was like, no worries, It was a lot of fun. All right, Nano. So before we go ahead and go through the players one by one, is there anything new in the life of Nana Noko? Did you have a fun week? All good?
I mean, it's hard to be too fun right now, but I'm glad that we got this weekly thing to just kind of keep everyone having a good time at this hour.
All right, well, let's just get this party started then. When it comes down to the pre-show, of course, this tournament is mostly played on the Sunday evening. That's when you can sign up, that's when you can register, and then they play all the way down to the final 9, and we delay the final 9 until right here. Right now, 27 minutes to go. I'm already excited because I've been having so much fun doing this every single week. It's honestly been a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at our chip leader of today. And then I have to admit that I haven't really been able to do all my homework for this one because I was playing a little bit of StarCraft in advance and then hosted the channel. So talk me through, who is our chip leader today?
Well, it's Van Blarcom. He's very new to GGPoker, as you can see from here. Doesn't have many results. I have a huge speculation of who it is based on the screen name. It says Van Blarcom. There's a guy out there named Van Blarcom who ran up like, I believe his tournament winnings 21K to like 4 million in 9 months. Now, I'm not saying it's the same guy, but there's a good chance, unless this guy is just a big fan of that guy right now. And that guy is just on the sickest heater. And if it's him, he's chip leader in this 10K tournament. That's a good chance to make it far.
Yep. Not as crazy of a chip leader as we saw last week when we saw Holiday come in with like 87 big blinds or something, over 7 million chips. We made a big fuss out of it. As you guys can see, this is normally the amount of chips that our chip leader has when we get into this final table, 3.8 million. Well, either he's a fan of the story and he wants to be the next Van Blarcom, or it's him and he's on an absolute roll. Let's take a look at one of the hands that he played in this high roller Super Millions over at GGPoker that got him to the final table. Oh, no, I already see enough. You love these kinds of hands, Nano, so go ahead and talk to me.
No, yeah, I love this, right? Like a lot of guys, right? You can see in this hand, he calls a raise with the King Jack suited, flops just an inside straight draw. It checks to him. He's seen the weakness. He puts out the bet, gets called, puts out another bet when he picks up the flush draw, gets called. And that's when most people give up. But this guy does not give up. He jams on the river. And none of the draws got there, right? Like the Queen Jacks missed, the King Jack, the spades, the diamonds, the 7-8, everything missed. But he still goes for it and just saying, look, I'm going to represent a big hand. I don't think you can make the call when you show such weakness on the flop, and he got the fold from Conor. This is just a good sign for someone who could be that guy I'm saying, who's done very well. It makes sense. They have to be capable of making that triple barrel.
And don't forget that Conor is actually also one of our players who not only came into a final table once as chip leader and back then forgot to select the correct seat. I know that you were going crazy over that. But Conor is actually at the final table today as well. So that's super cool. Well, obviously, if you look at his hand, you're like, all right, I want to see more hands of this dude. He comes into the final table as a chip leader, but 3.8 million, it's nice. You can definitely have some plays with it. You can make some moves with it. But this is not the kind of amount where you can just go crazy and call everything off and try to knock people out one by one. Before you know it, those chips are gone. Let's take a look at our second individual that has also been to a final table before. You shared a little bit of his life story. I loved it. Makes it very easy for me to cheer for this dude. But what else can you say about Jonathan Van Vliet?
Well, I mean, last time I told you about Jonathan Van Vliet, also known as Ape Styles, he had a big downswing, was going through some things. And, I believe he might have took a break from it, but he's been around for a long time. He's been crushing tournaments. And he came back and was like, I'm going to kind of just rebrand myself, make myself just become one of those top players again. And he's been crushing. He's been shipping bunches of tournaments. He's been playing all these big tournaments, as you can see. And he's, again, at this final table. Now, he didn't perform as well last time he got to the final table. He came in with a pretty big stack. But this time, I think he's here for revenge. And, it's just cool to see these familiar faces come back to the final table over and over again.
Well, speaking of familiar faces, I'm already excited to talk about our next guy, but we're not going to do that before we take a look at one of the hands that Jonathan Van Vliet or Ape Styles had that brought him to this final table. And it seems like he's been piling on the pressure on the turn with obviously a lot of potential in his hand, a lot of equity, but he didn't really have a made hand yet. Yeah,
this is actually a really bold play. He makes the play against Cale Burns, who's one of the best players in Australia. You can see here, he raises the ace-4 clubs, and he c-bets the flop, which is pretty normal, right? And then he turns the flush draw, and he bets again on the turn. He gets check raised on the turn, and he jams back all in with the flush draw. Even with the position, a lot of people would just take the call on the turn because it does seem like your opponent usually is strong. But he just figured, look, you wouldn't play a big hand this way. If you had a big hand, you probably would just check call. This is just some good hand reading. It's a very bold play, and the guys who get to the top, always the chip leaders, the ones who you hear are the greatest players in the world. They're the ones making these plays. They're just one-upping the guys that are just solid and not making these plays so much.
No, I love it. I look at this and I'm like, that is so bold, so brave. I don't think I'd be able to make that. I'd probably just kind of hit that call button very carefully. It's like, all right, give me a club on the river that doesn't pair the board. And then I feel safe. But an absolutely amazing move here by Ape Styles. And it's good to see he comes in with a lot of chips as well. He's awfully close to our chip leader today. So first, second, it doesn't make that much of a difference other than the seat selection, of course, which the players did go through. Let's take a look at our next guy. And you know that I'm going to love this because he's back. And if you guys are wondering, what do you mean he's back? Have we seen this guy at the final table before? Jesus? I think Jesus Cortez.
Yes.
Yep. Well, Jesus Cortez was previously playing under the account 20 Big Will 20. And this guy has just done absolutely phenomenal in the High Roller Super Millions. This is his 5th cash, his 3rd final table. Nano, those are insane numbers if you ask me.
Yeah, Jesus. We did not know who 20 Big Whale 20 was. I mean, do you remember that one time we were like, I want to see some familiar faces? I just episode 2 or 3, and you're like, yeah, I want to see 20 Big Whale 20. I'm like, who? Who are you talking about? And this guy continually makes the final table, 3rd final table appearance, 5th cash, and I did not know it was Jesus Cortez. I actually didn't know much about Jesus Cortez for a long time until one time when I was commentating for the Triton series. This dude, Jesus Cortez, shows up, don't even know who he is, playing 100Ks and 25Ks in all these big tournaments, and clearly he's a big high roller, a good poker player. You can see he plays big tournaments in his career highlights. It's just cool to see because a lot of times you got these screen names, we don't know who they are, but now we can attach some faces and names to them and just give them the the honor they deserve.
Yeah, that's really cool. GGPoker, of course, has done a great job in giving like a real ID to a lot of the screen names we've seen before. But I mean, I was looking at the results of this guy, and that's why I brought it up one moment. And you're like, there's great poker going on. What are you talking about 20 big wheel 20 again? I was like, well, he cashed again, even if he didn't make final table. That's insane. This is his second bullet, though, in this edition. But hey, 2 bullets making it into the final table with an awful amount of chips as well, by the way, or an awful lot. 3.4 million, 43 big blinds. The top 3, honestly, very close to each other. Nothing similar to the previous week. Let's take a look at one of the hands that 20 big wheel 20, or Jesus, had that brought him to the final table. And what have we got over here?
This is a really sick hand if you look at it. Of course, you're like, oh, he's got pocket kings, but look at that board right now. He raises the pocket kings. He bets on the flop on the drawy board, which of course you would do with kings. It turns the ace, the card you just hate, right? Like the card's like, oh man, that must improve my opponent. So you check, and then your opponent puts you all in. Another Spanish player, Adrian Mateos, when the flush gets there, and you make the hero call for an overbet pot on the river. With just 2 kings on this board, it's just a heroic call. It makes sense why Jesus Cortez is so good, because that is some sick hand reading. Like if you look at this, you don't beat many hands, but he found one he beat.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as well. It's like, if I had kings here, what do I hope my opponent has? King Jack, Queens, that's.
The thing is, this is very good hand rating, because a lot of times, right, when someone check calls you on the flop, they got showdown value on this, right? They got an 8-9, the Jack X. They're probably just going to keep just checking the river. They're not going to turn their hand into a bluff, because usually you'll win the pot. But Jesus Cortez knows Adrian Mateos plays so well that his opponent is capable of turning, it's just a pair of 5s, but it's still showdown value. It does beat some hands into bluffs, and that just shows a caliber of such a strong player like this. And it makes sense. The guy makes it final table 3 times, 5 cashes in this tournament that we haven't even done that many times, like 7 or 8 times edition. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's the 8th, because I think last week I remember calling it the 7th a couple of times. I think that's sick. 5 cashes, 3 final tables, and field that in general has 200 players, sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less, and then making it to the final table 3 out of 9 times. That's a 33% final table rate. I mean, I think any poker player in the world would sign up for a 33% final table rate in a massive MTT. So I'm obviously incredibly excited to see him play again tonight. And I actually think, before you even ask Nano, it's going to be my pick. 20 big will 20.
I already had that read, I had that read already. It's just like, man, what's so sick is that I really did not expect to see some of these guys so often make the final table, with a field size of 200, but it's just, I don't know how we do it, but we regularly get the same guys back to back to back. Like, maybe I expected like one guy to maybe show up twice. I did not expect someone to win it twice already, which was Michael Adamo. It's just so sick.
And these guys are unreal. I actually been talking about it as well on my StarCraft streams, where they're like, but Roddy, isn't poker like super random? Because that's a lot of the talks that I have on my stream. And I'm like, well, to put things in perspective, we're playing a tournament every Sunday with 200 players. One guy managed to win it twice in the first 8 editions. Other dudes have made final table twice. Now one of them even made 3 final tables in like 8 editions. That's absolutely insane. Let's take a look though at our next player, because we obviously still have quite a few players to go. Another familiar face, Samuel Valsden, also known as the European. And I gotta say, it's very hard for me to choose between 20 big will 20 and European, because I love this guy as well. It's been non-stop now. It's obviously been a crazy week in the world of online poker. Everybody's a streamer now. Everybody's making deep epic runs. And every single time those streamers are making deep epic runs, they go over the players that are still left in these high roller online tournaments. And the European, with his beautiful Finnish flag, he's always around.
Yeah, it's cool to see the European. He's one of my favorite players, like all-time favorite players. Even when I'm not playing the tournament, I like to open up his table sometimes and just watch him just crush. And he just continually does it. He's the first guy that we've featured here today that has made the back-to-back final table again, because another guy that's going to do it again. You'll see it soon. He's just so good. He's the most solid player out there. But when you give this guy the opportunity to to play with a big stack, man, he really just crushes too. But he knows how to play short stack and medium stack, and you know, he just understands poker so well. He's one of the best in the game, like literally one of the best in tournament poker.
Yeah, I gotta say, last time we had him at the final table, obviously he played his spots well, but he was a little more quiet than I expected him to be. He maybe didn't have the position, didn't have too many opportunities to really make crazy plays, but I really wanted to see that crazy European magic, and I didn't feel like we were robbed from it, but he was just kind of waiting his hand. He led it quite a bit, and in the end, he had a rather quiet exit, I think in fourth place, if I remember correctly. I hope he does better today.
Yeah.
He comes in fifth, okay. He comes in as fourth, but there is a pretty big difference in big blinds. You know, the top three, 48, 45, 43 big blinds. Samuel Valson comes in with 29. Now, of course, one proper pot, and that's completely switched. But, you know, there is a little bit of a drop-off. Let's take a look at one of the hands that the European had that brought him to another final table over here at the High Roller Super Millions. Nano, take it away.
You can see here, so he bets the top pair of the 9 high flush draw. It goes check, check on the turn, and then Lucas Greenwood bets into him on the river a quarter of the pot. And he decides to raise with the 9 of diamonds. And you know, this is a sign. Is this the standard decision here is just to call to 9 diamonds, because you're thinking, okay, if I raise, what worse diamond's going to call? You know, like if at the lower levels, people generally just play nuts or nothing kind of situation on these 4 diamond boards. But the European, even though it's paired too, goes for value by raising the 9 of diamonds here, and that just shows that these high rollers really just battle out for every pot and try to get every single chip they can, because he knows the 9 of diamonds is good. He's got the read that Lucas Greenwood, if he had a bigger diamond in this, probably would go for a bigger bet or possibly a check. And this is just going to be a very good mental game going into this final table today.
Yeah, I look forward to watching a lot of his hands. Last time I really kept a good close eye on him, and I want to see if he do some things out of turn. What I do remember is him making a couple of very correct falls where he had pretty playable hands, but he was actually being outkicked in a lot of those scenarios and managed to avoid a lot of the tricky scenarios. So we'll see what he brings to the table today. Obviously, we're very happy to have him here again at another final table. Let's take a look at our 5th player, somebody that we already just briefly touched upon, because he got kind of bluffed in one of those hands. From Australia, Nana, what can you talk to me, or what can you tell me about Cale Burns?
Yeah, Cale Burns is he's second on all-time money list, right behind Joe Hasham. Third is Michael Adimo on the all-time Australian money list, and he is one of the best in the game. He, I know him. I've spoken to him a lot. He hails from Melbourne. He's just one of those big-time crushers, and it's his first time for final table in the Super Millions. But this guy plays like 100K tournaments. He plays a super high roller bowl, which I believe is 250K. You know, this guy is a high roller. He told me he used to play cash games primarily in Macau, but then he started to play some more tournaments, and he obviously is crushing. You can see, he's got many first places, and just like, wow, this is easy money. So he just keeps playing these big tournaments. He's been to the Triton Series as well, and I just love to see Cale Burns here, just to show, like, whenever you say who's the best in Australia, it always comes down to Michael Adamo and Cale Burns, and that's, which one's better, who knows, but they're both very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, not just in Australia, right? I think both those guys, when it comes to worldwide poker, is like, how good are they? Well, they are way up in the rankings, that's for sure. Winning the 2020 Aussie Millions as well. Obviously a very prestigious tournament, something even I'm aware of. Let's take a look at one of the hands that Mr. Burns had that brought him to this final table. See if we can find him on the right side of something cheeky. Well, okay, that's one hell of a board, but yeah, talk to me, Nana.
Yeah, this is actually a very heroic call, right? So it's small blind versus big blind against Tan. He raises and he gets 3-bet, calls with the ace-5 suited out of position, which seems reasonable. He picks up the inside straight draw, a little something, right? But when someone 3-bets you, they usually represent those big pairs and those bigger aces. But he still makes the call on the flop, turns the pair of 5s. His opponent Tan bets again and he calls again. Now the river's a deuce. It's deuce 4, 4, 5 deuce. and his opponent puts him all in, and he calls it off with just a pair of fives. And it's a very big call, right? Because when someone 3-bets you, they bet this flop, they bet this turn, and they've shoved this river. They really look like they got the aces, kings, and queens, jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, all of them, right? And plus, you got to think this. If they had a bet like an ace, king, ace, queen type hand, they probably would have checked the turn by now or the river. So it doesn't make like that much. It just seems like a very strong hand. Oftentimes, there's not that many draws. There's no flush draws. He just knew this guy just had jack 9 high and just went for it and made the call.
What I wonder about when I look at a board like this and I look at the way that the betting went is like, how do you convince yourself that this is not one of the scenarios that he indeed doesn't have aces, kings, queens? I mean, aces, you can say like, all right, you've got one of the aces, so maybe aces is a bit less likely. But how do they find these spots where they just know that somehow the pair of fives is going to be good enough? That seems so insane to me.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but this is why these guys get to the end every single time in ship tournaments. I'm sure they're wrong sometimes, but they often get it correct more often than not.
Yep, I mean, the track record kind of shows that, right? Backs it up. All right, we've got 9 minutes until the cards go up in the air. So we got to speed it up a little bit. Let's take a look at our 6th player that made it at this final table. Lucas Greenwood seems to be somebody who's been around for quite some time. Also played the Triton series, something that you're very familiar with, Randy. But what can you tell us about Lucas Greenwood?
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, there's another Greenwood named Sam Greenwood who's much more known. This is Lucas's brother, and they play the same tournaments too, and they just really go at each other too, and just bluffing and calling each other down. So it's just really crazy. I didn't expect Lucas Greenwood to make it to final table before him. He's not as known as the other Greenwood as was amongst all the tournament players, but he plays all the biggest tournaments. He's kind of one of those silent killers that just crushes, but, you don't really talk about him too much. But, he's here. He's got 26 big blinds, and he's here to make a name for himself and outdo his brother.
And a massive score over at GGPoker in the WSOPC ring event. I mean, that's pretty amazing, making it into 3rd for over $1 million. That would really look good if you click on that profile. It's like, all right, that's one hell of a score, Mr. Greenwood. Let's take a look at one of the hands that Lucas Greenwood had that brought him to this final table. We've got 8 minutes. So, Randy, we got to speed it up a little bit, but seems to be rather aggressive. I don't know if he got that from his brother or not, but putting the pressure on here on the turn.
Yeah, well, it looks like here he raises with the ace-10, and he bets flop with, most people just see-bet the flop a lot, but he picks up the inside straight draw. Not a good straight draw, but enough to just keep betting. And, I would say this hand is fairly standard. But, just someone who's capable of putting in the bets with at least a little bit of equity.
All right, let's take a look at our 7th player, somebody who we have not seen at one of these final tables yet, and also somebody who's not labeled under their real name. Speedy Double does have a lot of winnings over at GGPoker, 1.5 million. Has done very well. One of the raceless events, took 2nd place, so that's really cool to see. Seems to be very active on the side, but no, I think that's pretty much all we can really talk about, right?
I can't really say much about this guy besides he plays all the high roller tournaments. If you just look at his series, the guys who play in the 5K high rollers, the 5K blades, and these guys are definitely regulars who play all the time, because most of the guys who just kind of play for more recreational or whatever, they kind of just only play the big profile events like this kind of thing, the special name ones. But the side tournaments, he's playing all of them too.
Yep. Let's take a look at one of the hands that Speedy Double had that allowed him to get into this final table. He comes in 7th as chip in chips. We've got a little Queen 9 of spades where he did have a backdoor. He, of course, has the gut shot here as well.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about this one. Kind of just like a good. This is actually as simple as it gets. You know what? Just bet and fold on the flop. Not too much to say, really.
100% c-bet, right? That used to be the golden rule. I don't know if people still stick to that or not, but in this case he did, and he took it down immediately. So that's good for us because we need to speed it up. Let's take a look at our next player, and this man deserves a little more attention because we have seen him at the final table. Sakwan, also known as Spicy Chicken Sandwich, his 3rd final table, back-to-back final tables as well. Amazing. This guy's crushing it.
Yeah, Saquon actually kind of reminds me of Big Whale 20, right? Like the guy with the screen name that we just see regularly doing very well. Back-to-back final tables, him and the European have done it here, and he's gotten two third places, right? I think he's destined to get third again, but that's okay because it's at least 220K. It's cool to see him. This guy, I didn't know who he was. The spicy chicken sandwich, whatever. But like now I'm becoming a fan, right? Because like you just keep seeing him coming back to back, and he's really solid.
Randy, I have to admit, I kind of live for this because you correct me a lot throughout the entire evening. Because I, of course, say silly things when I watch poker. But Mr. Samuel Valsen, also known as European, did not make back-to-back final tables. It wasn't last week that he was at the final table. It was at least 2 weeks ago, if not 3 weeks ago. So what he's doing, spicy chicken sandwich or Saquon, is actually a little more impressive. Okay, this is the real back-to-back guy.
Hey, I just want to point out one thing. There's a reason he couldn't beat a spicy chicken sandwich anymore because there's a new policy out there where you can't have your username more than 12 characters. So he had to change it to Saquon, which probably means spicy chicken sandwich in some other language is my guess.
All right, let's take a look at one of the hands that Saquon had that brought him to another final table here over the High Rollers Super Millions. Well, that's a long hand.
Yes.
We got to speed it up. We've got 4 minutes.
This is good. This is a good one, though.
All right.
This is a good one.
Go ahead.
So we got three-way. He calls it the inside straight draw. Three-way still in this pot, right? Or I think it might be four. I don't know. It's a lot of people. Turns the straight draw. There's a bet, a call, a hold, and he calls with the open-end straight draw. Checks to him on river. The two guys who probably have at least a jack, right? And he's still betting into them when the flush get there, but he doesn't need to bet too big. He just bets a third of the pot. Just try to make it look like you're trying to squeeze some value in. Sometimes it's not the big bets you need to do to make the bluff. It's just the correct size based on the situation.
Yeah, it's really funny when you've got like these pots with multiple players involved. And if the action is really cooling down, then sometimes you do see one of them suddenly throwing out like that quarter-sized pot bet. And I feel that everybody at the table is like, don't believe it, but can call. Don't believe it, but can call. Don't believe it, but can call. And then sometimes these tiny bets do actually manage to take it down. And that is obviously what happened over here. So well done. We've got one more player before we go ahead and take a look at our final tables, the way everything is set up, where players are sitting. And we can actually talk about some live poker because that's, of course, what we are here for. And you guys as well. And our last player at this final table is somebody that's made it to a final table before, back then as chip leader. This time he comes in 9th in chips, plus have 10 big blinds. Satellited in, but did fire a second bullet as well. But Conor Barrow, the man who didn't switch seats when he had the option, coming in as chip leader. But Nana, what else can we talk about?
I mean, I was pounding him about this, right? Like he didn't switch chips as a chip leader, got 6 plays. It was a terrible performance, but man, a lot of people who know this guy, this is Tonka's roommate, who just shipped a big tournament online on, with whole cards up somewhere. He's just very good. Let's check out his hand.
All right, let's take a look at his hand because we've got 2 minutes before the cards are up in the air. Conor Barrow, it's nice to see him here again. As chip leader, he couldn't get it done, but maybe when he comes in last, he will get it done. I don't think we have that much to talk about this hand, even though that river is interesting. So go ahead and talk to me.
Yeah, he's still got value of aces on this board, right? Against pocket tens. That just shows he's probably got a very aggressive image because a lot of guys would just offside. You probably got ace king, but still gets the value. It's really well done, and I'm just happy to see Conor back again. I think he had a very terrible performance the last one, but not because he played poorly, because he got very unlucky. He got I think it was the aces against the jack. The guy turned a jack. It was just a disaster, that one.
Yeah, it was a tough run. And of course, it all started with the seat selection thing. So let's go ahead and bring up the table, guys, because it is 29 minutes past 8 over here in Central Europe. And that means that it's time for another edition of the final table. All right, we've got 2 minutes, so we can talk a little bit about where everybody is sitting. And that is actually interesting. We do have our 3 biggest stacks all on the top side of the table, probably all try to get position on each other when we had the seat selection go down. I kind of like Europeans' position here, actually, far away from those guys. I don't mind that.
Yeah, it's this seat selection thing is just very funny because it really changes the dynamic, right? Because like The chip leader always has position on the second place guy. A second place guy always has a position on the third place guy. You know, like it's just because you got to predict what the guy after you is going to do because there's no point changing. So, you know, I think actually there's a lot of metagame onto how to properly choose your seats. And if you are planning on making one of these final tables, you should probably just kind of pen and paper it a little bit and see how it goes. But you know, let's go to picks. So your pick is it Jesus Cortez? Is it the big whale 20?
Well, I don't like the fact that he's being sandwiched by the two other biggest stacks on the table.
But it is big. But this big whale 20, right? That's
it
the
is
question.
big 20, big whale 20, and he was my initial pick. But maybe now that I look at where everybody's actually sitting, I'm gonna go back to the other guy I'm a fanboy of. I'll go with Samuel Velsen. I'll go with the European.
The European is your pick. I'm gonna pick the guy, the chip leader, Van Blarcom, the guy who I think is the guy who ran a 20K tournament winning up to 4-point-something million, but not just from one score, from many scores. That's my pick, Van Blarcom, the chip leader, and he did that in 9 months, assuming it's the same guy. But this is going to be a good one. A lot of great people here. But you know, I want to pick Ape Styles, but he disappointed. He failed me last time. I hyped him up for that, but I know he's going to do well. I'm sure. I want to see him do well, but I picked Van Blarcom.
What about Kale Burns? He's kind of. Oh, we're actually going to.
Oh, we get seat selection. Oh, well,
okay, we were not aware of this, guys. This is only the second time that we are actually witnessing this live. You know what? Forget all the picking, Nano. I'm gonna make the picks by the time we see where everybody sits. Okay, I think that's only fair.
Okay, so basically the way the seat selection works is if you're the shortest stack, you have to switch seat with someone next, and then the second shortest stack has to switch. Eventually, the chip leader will get to pick last. You guys get to see this live, and you only get 10 seconds to do it. You just got to make sure you switch. Otherwise, you saw Conor, right? Oh, Sasquan did not switch his seat.
Yeah, but that could also be on purpose because at this point, does it really matter where he goes when there's like still 7 people behind him that are going to swap seats? You know, while we're watching this take place, obviously, I think it's pretty easy to follow. I want to share a story. My dad has been playing a little bit on GGPoker as well. He's been having a lot of fun. And then today he came, he's like, oh, you know what happened? I was like, what is it, Dad? He's like, well, I get really upset when there are things happening and I don't get it. But suddenly there was a final table and everybody started switching around. And then I got the big blind immediately and I was the shortest stack. And he's like, and I just didn't know what was happening. And I was so angry and I just couldn't play anymore. I was like, wait. I was like, I mean, if you get a big blind immediately, I was like, okay, that kind of sucks. But you know, at the end of the day, everybody's going to get that big blind. So what's the big deal? He's like, yeah, but I was the shortest stack. I was like, then it really doesn't matter that you didn't know what was happening because you would have to choose first anyway. And everybody else would swap after you. He's like, yeah, but still, it really bothered me. I was like, oh my God. I'm like trying to explain to the old man that it really wouldn't have made a difference. But he was convinced that the whole seat selection thing is what messed him up. I was like, Dad, trust me, that was not it.
Okay, this is interesting. Okay, this is actually very. We almost had the exact same final table, I think, but just kind of like rotate a little bit. But Van Blarcom actually took this. He switched of Conor, and he took out of position against the 2 chip leader people, the second place and third place guy. Which you actually expected him to switch seats with Sasquan, right?
Well, maybe he just loves to bring the heat. Maybe he wants to be the one raising it up and then putting the other guys to the test rather than him having to answer.
This is cool. Well, my pick is still Van Blarcom. Who's your guy?
European, mate. As long as he doesn't go crazy over here. No.
The European is very solid. I mean, you mentioned the other day, right? Like he's the kind of guy that just kind of didn't go too crazy, but that's kind of how he plays. He chooses his spots really well, and he understands the situation. He's just an overall solid player. I always expect European to get towards the top, but he doesn't play the same style like Adamo would play, where like 9th or 1st, right? But Europeans, if you want to model your gameplay after someone and just really learn from someone, that's the guy I would pick because it's most solid and it's much easier and less reckless than some of the other guys out there.
Gotta say, that's one hell of a first hand for Speedy Double that we just saw. And under the gun open of Cale Burns, A7 suited, a bit adventurous, but you know, he maybe wants to make some noise immediately. And then Speedy Double is one of the shortest stacks in the table, immediately shoving his pocket jacks. But it's cool because it also gives the idea like, is this guy just making a stance over here? Now he's shoving sixes as
Connor.
well. 2 hands in a row. And Conor is going to call here with the ace-5, so he's going to need quite a bit of help, Nano.
Yeah, he needs that ace to stay in this. One ace is dead. We saw Kale fold. He hit that 9 to chop it up.
Well, that's not going to be it. So unfortunately, it is once again not going to be an epic run here. My last hand, Conor did give us an emoji. Oh, that's a shame. But obviously, if you come in as short a stack at the table, you pick up ace-5 there. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, it's just another. I mean, at least this one, right? He didn't come into chip leader and got 9th place. You know, Connor came in as 9th, expected to get 9th and got it. You know, he's obviously very good. He just hasn't performed that well at our final tables here in the 10K Super Millions. But knowing this guy, he's going to re-enter every single time, every week. So I would love to see him come back. But today was just not that day for him. He basically waited. What we take a 1-day break. He came he came here today to play 2 hands.
2 hands. But to look at it from the other side, Speedy Double came in here, 7th in chips with only 23 big blinds, 1.8 million. And 2 hands into the final table, he's now sitting at 3.1 million chips, and he's a top 4 stack at this final table. So for him, that wait has been well worth it.
Yeah. And on to this hand. Now,
Wow.
The most interesting thing about this hand is that Kale limped the button with about 20 big blinds with 9-7 suited. You can see a lot of guys with this medium stack, they just kind of get out of the way, let the short stacks kind of just bust. But you know, Kale, he wants to keep getting involved. He thinks he's got a post-flop advantage with his cash game history, and he probably does probably to some extent, you know. But Van Blarcom is going to call him just the pocket sixes on this board texture, and Jesus Cortez picked up a straight draw. It's tricky because he is going to go for the check raise, and this is very beautiful.
20 big wheel 20, bringing the heat here immediately. And the thing is, Van Blankum can't possibly call here with 6s, 2
But what about
cards.
Kale? Is Kale going to go with his hand 9-7? His kicker is pretty much non-existent because you wouldn't expect a guy with 9-6, 9-5, 9 deuce to check raise here. They would just call.
He could see 20 big wheels 20 hand as a 10 jack as well, right? Because 10 jack, 10 7, it's kind of similar here. So maybe
or 6, yeah. So basically, he's up against the. Okay, well, he's got the flush draw now. Jesus Cortez is just committed now, given how much is in the middle. I imagine they're both going to get it all in.
Oh wow. Okay, well that's it. We're going to need a 9 or a heart, or Mr. Burns is eliminated, and we're dropping players real quick. That's not a heart, is it? Wow. Wow, that spiraled out of control real quick, Nano.
Yeah, that hand was just it's not expected, right? That you're gonna see Kale Burns bust out right before Susquehanna. But you know, Kale Burns, he plays that style where he just wants to try and shift the tournament. And sometimes when you do that, you bust out a lot quicker than expected. And big whale 20. Jesus Cortez, the guy, man, he just keeps final table and he's chip leader now. You should have picked Jesus.
Well, I mean, everybody knows that I'm a 20 big wheel 20 guy. So if he wins it, that's still a little bit of my pick. But I was a bit worried about his position because I felt that he was going to have to duke it out all the time with the big stacks. Probably wouldn't get super involved. So I kind of imagined him chipping down a little bit. But that was just one hell of a hand going for the raise there on the flop with the open and a straight roll. Then turning top pair on the turn and makes the easy call. Actually put his opponent all in immediately. He's off to a hot start, but we've seen it last week. 5.2 million chips is great, but no guarantee at all that you're going to ship this entire tournament. What a way to start this final table, Nano. It took us 30 minutes to cover these players. We're going over their hands. Now it's 9 minutes of poker. We have lost 2 players.
Yeah, and this could be a quick one, man. I like this. You know, it's just such strong players here. I'm a fan of Big Whale 22. You know, like I wasn't a fan when you said his name before, just because I was like, who did you say was going to make this final table again? But man, Jesus Cortez is, you know, he's one of the unknown Spanish players out there, but clearly he deserves to be recognized for one of the best Spanish players like Adrian Mateos and some like what's his other guy, Sergio
Malacca
Ido,
styles?
those guys, yeah, Malacca style, those guys are like the best that play from Spain. But Jesus Cortez is like, yeah, those guys are good, but I'm the big whale 20.
Speedy Double picking up another monster pocket pair here very early on into this final table. He must have the wildest image right now, shoving the first hand, shoving the second hand, and now defending his big blind like a maniac almost, because there's obviously one hell of a raise as well. But he's got the goods again. The queens here.
And
are
he's getting ape styles thinking about making a play back at him because he's like, man, your frequency is way too high. But
gonna-
Speedy Double's been picking up the hands, right? Pocket pair every single time. But good thing he's just like, you know what? You could have it again. So I'm just gonna give it up.
Well, we're looking all at Sakwan right now as our shortest stack at this table. Less than 9 big blinds, and he's going to shove the 10-9 suited. Lucas Green wakes up with ace-10, so if he calls, he's obviously in fantastic position immediately.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot because you got 3 guys stacked behind you. You're the second shortest stack, and ace-10. It's not really crushing normally, I think, in this spot. It just depends on how many worse aces is Saquon shoving. Is Saquon shoving the ace deuce suited? Then you will probably want to go up to ace 10. And he agrees he is going to make the call. And Saquon is in trouble here. He needs some help.
He's going to need a 9 or a lot of spades. Well, does
Ooh,
pick up a gut
stuff.
shot. Yep. Oh, picks up the gut shot. And okay.
41%.
A 9, a spade, a 7. Too many outs? Is that a spade? That's a spade.
Oh, we can't lose Saquon. We can't lose him, right? He's just too. He's like the other big whale 20 guy.
He doubles up. He's now at 1.6 million chips, and this obviously means that now Lucas Greenwood is actually our shortest stack at this final table. They often talk about the too many outs syndrome, but that was just the right amount of outs because it wasn't an open ender. It was the gut shot. So then it's good.
He actually had a double gutter. If you look very carefully on the river card, he had 41%. If you take a look at that, the double gutter. I think you're asking me, is it the double gutter, the double belly buster? What's his preferred name for the inside straight draw? But you can take a look at that. But look at this hand right here. Saquon shoves pocket nines. 1-9 is dead. Pocket queens for Jesus. I imagine ape styles should be able to get away from the 10s, given the hand.
That's actually very wild because obviously Jesus is our chip leader and folds the 10s immediately. Jonathan Van Vliet, very well done. Saquon all in again, and he's going to need a lot of help. He needs a 9 last hand. He needs a 9 this hand. No other outs this time. A 9 and a 9 only. And that's not a 9. It's a picture card. I know. What is happening tonight?
I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, how did 3 people bust already? Saquon just doubles up, immediately loses all those chips. He played that hand just fine. We're down to 6.
Yes, he had like 18 big blinds. 1.6 million, 90K big blind.
If he just min-raised, he might have gotten away because the 10s probably would have got involved somehow, Yep. But that's the thing. You can't just be too results oriented. You got to make the plays that you think are right. And, we know Spicy Chicken Sandwich Saquon is very good because keeps getting 3rd place, but this is his worst performance this time, 7th place here. But he didn't come in with a lot of chips, so you can't feel too bad for him.
Do you think that everybody would always agree that with 18 big blinds, 9s under the gun is a shove?
I don't think everyone would agree. I think some of these players might go for the min raise. I don't think anyone would open fold, but that one guy who was folding the 9s, 10s,
yeah.
Fitzgerald, I believe. I'm still needling that guy, even though he's not even here today.
Yeah, what's next? You're gonna talk about LKS and his slot machine emoji or portrait again?
Okay, well, I don't know if it's standard, but it's definitely it's not a bad play. It's just
I would definitely not call it a bad play, but I do think at the final table, especially when Lucas Greenwood is a lot shorter than you, has like less than 50% of the your amount of chips. I don't know if I would shove 9s there. I think it's. But
you probably would at least raise, right? At least raise.
Yeah, no, I think opening is fine because obviously your opening always looks strong when you're a short stack under the gun. But if there's then crazy action happening, small blind, big blind, then maybe you can get away from it, or it goes to the flop. And then well,
Yeah.
to be honest, that flop wouldn't have been good for nines because you would have been like, yeah, deuce, deuce, four or whatever it was. That's a pretty good flop for nines.
It is actually, it would have been an amazing flop. But yeah, he's out. And onto this hand, Van Fleet, what got the worst, better king to fold here. Nice play. So this situation, right? We got Lucas Greenwood, who's super short. What usually happens is everyone just waits for Lucas Greenwood to kind of bust. I expect the European for sure to do that because he understands. I don't think the European would have shoved the nines because he's very solid the way you explain, right? And he understands the ICM probably one of the most compared to most of these guys here. Of course, I know Ape Styles understands ICM very, very well. But it's just like the expectation usually is that people play pretty solid here. And that's going to allow Jesus Cortez to open up, the queen jack under the gun and get those ace-8 suiteds out of there, right? Like, this is a time for Jesus to just open raise a little bit more until Lucas Greenwood either doubles up or is gone because it's almost free chips for him.
Yep, has ace-9 now as well, so you can easily defend that. Van Blarkham used to be our chip leader. He's actually going to tag along for the ride, but I'm expecting a raise here from our 20 big will 20. No, he's actually just going to call.
Okay. I think a re-raise would have been just fine because Van Blarkham's hand does look very weak to just flat call here. But then again, it does make sense for these bigger stacks to play more cautiously, and so their ranges do increase a bit. It just depends on what you think they have. No one flops anything. Speedy double is going to just check, not continuation bet. First one to bet is going to win this pot.
Yeah, because they really don't have much going on here at all. It doesn't happen often that we say there are no backdoors, but that's pretty much what's happening right now. At least everybody is drawing to nothing. It's going to be check, check, check one more time, and everyone still has nothing, which means that 20 big wheels 20 Jesus hand is still in the lead with just ace high.
And it's Van Blarkham who's betting with just absolute air, just puts his opponent on nothing, and that's what I like to see from my guy, right? Like, it's just. You got good hand reading when you're bluffing with just nothing pretty much because with the action, because most people would just check, oh, someone's got a showdown, right? They just keep checking, but that was just very beautiful there.
Jesus is going to call here, but Jonathan Van Vliet wakes up with pocket tens once again. Second time he gets tens here at the final table. First time he made the correct fold because his opponent had queens. This time he makes the correct raise because his opponent has absolutely nothing. The Jack 5 offsuit. I don't really like limping with those kind of hands, to be honest. Like, I know you're chip leader. You want to get involved in pots and you can maybe bet. But I'm like, either you raise and hope that they have nothing so they just fold. Or sometimes give them a walk, Nano. It doesn't hurt to make some friends.
These guys do not give walks. These guys limp the small blind like every single time. But onto this hand, Van Blarkham actually 3x's the short stacks big blind, which actually makes a lot of sense. They have a lot of implied odds to just call really wide for a min raise. Oh, but wow. He lets Greenwood still gets a 10.
That is
but
insane.
He got less odds to hit that 10. That's why you make it bigger against such a short stack. He's gonna call here and probably going to get the double up, but he can still hit that 13%er.
Oh, well, that's one dead out, but then a couple of additional outs arrive because now the jacks are good as well, but that's not going to be the case. An 8 on the river is safe for our shortest stack. So Mr. Greenwood will double up here as well, and he's going to be very pleased with that. The king 10 offsuit against the ace king suited. Poker is a brutal game.
Yeah. Van Blarkham played it as best as he could, right? Like, he made it bigger on purpose against the short stack so that they don't get the implied odds. But sometimes if they still want to continue and they get there, there's nothing you can do. Speedy double just keeps on picking up these pocket pairs. But you can see Ape Styles wants to 3-bet him with the king 10 offsuit here. That's the vibe I'm getting.
What do you make of that call with the king 10?
I think it's fine because you're so short and you're still getting all right odds. You just flop anything you just got to go with it. I think it's fine for sure.
Now, of course, like on the flop, I understand that it's a no-brain shove call, whatever you want to do there. But I often feel that when I was playing some poker last week, there were a lot of people. Oh no!
Wait! No one cares about your story right now because the European is raising ace 4 offsuit, but. Okay, let's be fair. It's not going to work. Of course, Speedy Double is going to reship it on him, right? But This play looks really strong. He's 3-betting from the big blind. He's got that really shallow stack. He tries to choose the spots really well to European, right? And usually
Yeah.
it'll work. But
I
that's
think
what
it
I was
has a
telling
lot to
you.
do with the fact of how Speedy Double has played so far at this final
Mhm.
table, right? Doesn't get involved every hand, but every hand he did get involved, he was incredibly aggressive or just shoved all in. And maybe European at one point is like, well, how often are you going to have it here? Like, let's see if I can actually take a pot away from you. That did not happen. Speedy Double continues now in the next hand with the ace-8 suited, pairs an ace as well. But we have a monotone board, and neither player actually having any clubs in their hands.
Yeah, Greenwood might throw out like a 25% pop bet, even less actually. When you got these monotone boards, you can scale down your bet from a GTO point of view.
Ooh.
You can easily get the folds. But now there's 4 clubs out there, and I don't want to say Greenwood lost his pot for sure because there's a chance he might be able to steal this if he opts to continue betting on some further street.
Well, now it's going to get a little more difficult. Even though, of course, if you're worried about clubs, you're still going to be worried about clubs. But with 2 aces, you're going to feel a little bit better that, if you do bet and you get called here, you probably won't get called by an ace. So you should always be good. Let's see if Lucas Greenwood feels feisty and tries to take it
Yeah.
away here.
It just depends. Does Lucas Greenwood think his opponent would ever fold an ace? He thinks the answer is no. So nice chip up for Speedy Double. Speedy Double's been playing real solid. He's the one guy left here with his screen name, right? The Speedy Double. But yeah, European.
I didn't even. Wow, how did I not make that pun? Speedy Double has indeed made a couple of Speedy Doubles at this final table. The European is going to shove pocket
Ooh.
sixes from the button. And Van Blackham actually has somewhat of a real hand here. The ace-9 offsuit.
It's a tough spot because this is as marginal as it gets because you're like those chips are very valuable, but from just a pure chip EV point of view, the ace-9 would definitely be a call. But from an ICM final table point of view, I don't know anymore because he is going to make the call here. He thinks enough worse hands. This is someone just going for that win. Let's see if Van Blarcom's going to get the trip 9s here.
Oh, the
and he's
full house.
drawing dead. The European is out.
Well, my pick was 20 big will 20 all along, right?
It was 20 big will 20. But European, another solid performance. He didn't really do too much. He made that one play.
Yeah, with the ace-4.
Another 6th, 5th place style. He's going to be back here. We know it.
Of course he is. Now, indeed, a 6th place exit. I mean, things are going so fast. We have not even been talking about the prize money this week, but we're just rushing through it. It's a shame to lose the European so early on, but the players are once again kind of continuing where we left off last week, and that is just trying to knock each other out left, right, and center. A lot of aggression, a lot of massive pots immediately. I feel like we've seen very few small, slow pots so far.
Yeah. So what European got 6th place just now? He got 93K. So everyone is guaranteed 138,000. It's 500 and over $500,000 for first place, down to 5. And I want to go back to that hand just a little bit. Van Blarcom making a call of ace-9. It just shows he can see he's got this little bit of a different style because I think a lot of guys might consider folding the ace-9, and it was as marginal as it gets, right? Because it really depends. Is European shoving worse aces there? And the answer is yes, enough to make that call. And of course, he could have been behind. Just very, very well done.
And it's like you said as well, the 1.3 million chips are very valuable there because if Van Blarcom was wrong, if that would have been an ace-king, an ace-10, an ace-queen, and he loses the hand, well, then suddenly he is pretty much the shortest stack at the table. So a tough spot, but he made the correct decision. And he's now not back in the chip lead, but he's second in chips. And I feel at this point, there are 4 guys looking at Lucas Greenwood like, it's time to go, Lucas. You've been lathering very quietly, but you're still the shortest stack at the table. And speaking of 4s, we've got some pocket 4s over here.
This is a tough hand to play. I know it's pre-flop. He doesn't even know if he should raise or not. And that's the thing. That's the tough thing about it because he doesn't have 10 big blinds. He doesn't have 20 big blinds. He's got that middling stack where he raises. He's going to just have to give it up. If he gets called by the big blind, it's hard to play post-flop. If your opponent gives you a little bit of resistance, he just open folds. That's probably the correct play from final table, tournament pro ICM point of view. So that's funny. Like it just it's something like that. He's like, oh, I got a pair, just an easy raise. But really, I think that was a smarter play to fold the fours there. So on to now the blind versus blind. Jesus, he's limping. You don't like the play, but
No, that's
you
not what I
you
said. I think that's different. This is
you just can't fold. That's the thing, because you're getting if you're in a big stack, people don't like to play back at you as much. So you get a little bit more chance to see that free flop.
No, Nana, don't twist my words. I do like a limp. Like with a king nine suited, I'm absolutely on board with a limp. If you want a limp there, that's fine. I think a raise is okay as well. But with a hand as weak as Jack 5 offsuit, then I feel like either put on aggression or just get away. Like that's kind of how I see it. Because when is Jack 5 ever going to flop good anyway?
Yeah, the Jack 5-5 flop.
Yeah, once in a blue moon. That only happens in the $2 hyperturbos, mate.
But no, is this one of the fastest we've gone down to final five?
Yes,
I feel like it really
absolutely.
is.
I feel like we haven't even really been able to talk about a lot of the hands that have really taken place because they're all pretty standard, straightforward. They've been shove, raise, 3-bet, fold, all in, and bam, bam, bam. And I actually understand as well from Lucas Greenwood. He's like, well, this is going incredibly well. I've been short for quite some time, but people keep getting eliminated. Why would I shove pocket fours here? Maybe I can ladder one more spot.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you're that short stack, you don't really have your eye on the top prize yet. You're kind of more on the eye of, let me get some ladders. There's other short stack, let them bust first. And then when you double, that's when you change your mind. Like, okay, I'm going for that top spot. But that is what you're supposed to do at final tables, because the pay jumps are so big relative to when you min cash, right? You get like probably 20K, and then you get the next spot, you might get an extra like 3 or 5K. But here you're getting like at least one buy-in more, and it gets even more. That's why you gotta play that solid style and tighter in general because of the pay jumps. Okay, did you see that bet? The pot size bet from Van Blarcom.
I love it. I mean, that is just like, okay, he doesn't have much yet, but his hand does feel pretty powerful there with the Queen of Spades as well. Why the hell not put on some pressure? If your opponent has nothing, you'll take it down, which makes your life a lot easier than when the river is the deuce of diamonds and you're like, well,
yeah.
am I still gonna try or not?
But you were talking about it, right? You got to go for those big bets when you want to bluff, right? And that's the thing; it puts the most pressure, and you got those sevens to fold quickly. And Speedy doubled. See, he's been re-raising a lot of good hands, right? But now he's got the ace-5 suited. And
the image.
Yeah, the image is perfect. He got the chip leader, Jesus Cortez, folds such a good hand, King Jack suited.
Yep, well done by Speedy Double. I mean, obviously the players are always going to take a look at the stream as well. And I'll be like, well, that's almost there. And it was queens, jacks. What else did we have? And not a monster pocket pair. I don't know, tens or jacks again. So yeah, I love it by Speedy Double. This is the first time he got a little out of line there with the ace-5 suited. But at this point, he's got one hell of an image. Doesn't get involved a lot, but when he does, he takes it down.
Yep, Lucas Greenwood is just going to keep playing snug. Folds a Jack 10 suited. Speedy double pocket 3 is going to try to hit that set. Going to have 3-way coming. No, actually, Jesus folded the ace-9. I'm very, very, very surprised. Big Whale 20 is like, you know what? I'm just going to hold on to these chips. Don't let them go. I'm very shocked. I don't think that's standard. I don't know if that's the right play.
It may not be standard, Nano, but if you would go back to some of the previous final tables where we had 20 Big Will 20, that's a lot of in line with how he has been playing at those final tables as well. Because I was like, man, this guy keeps making deep runs. He keeps going deep. What does he do? He actually picks his spots. He really doesn't get involved in too many hands, whether he's a medium stack or a big stack or a smaller stack. With those marginal hands, I know ace-9 would have been good here, but he can't possibly know that. That's actually a lot of in line with how he's been playing at the previous weeks as well.
Yeah. Onto this hand. So Ape Style is going to bet the flop, and he picks up the straight draw, bets again, and gets it done. And that's very impressive, because that's one of those cards on the turn where, yeah, you pick up extra outs, but it's very scary too, because your opponent probably picked up extra outs and usually won't fold that turn. So very good read by Ape Styles there, putting out that half pot on the turn. So this makes a lot of sense that Big Whale 20, Jesus Cortez, is limping the small blind a lot, because he likes to kind of contain the pot but still get involved a little bit, right? And he picks up the double gutter. Good spot to bet, in my opinion.
Yep. The 6 or the deuce is good here. Jonathan Van Vliet is probably going to feel that if he just gets a deuce, it's going to be amazing. Now we've got a spade draw for both players as well, but the one of Jesus is actually better.
I do think Jesus should bet again in general because his opponent's playing from the big blind. He's going to have a very wide range, like any 3, any 4. There's a lot of hands that actually will just fold, like random king highs with no spade. So Jesus actually picks up a lot of extra outs. So this is a very good bet despite it not working. And they're both so happy, right, to see the deuce.
Yeah. They're like, oh my goodness, they'll never put me on that. The gutter ball gets drilled by both of them. And that's actually unfortunate for Jonathan Van Vliet because obviously his jack was good and would have been good in most scenarios. And for most river cards, they're going to chop it up. No raise there. No mind games. Would you ever raise your 5 there, hoping? Nah.
Nah, definitely not, because my opponent could be betting, a little baby flush, thinking my hand is so weak, and obviously it'd be a disaster.
Yep.
Don't like sometimes you don't need to go for that extra thin value at final tables because the mistake is like more costly than the potential of you maybe getting more chips, but them possibly just folding anyways.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Especially if you're like, let's say you put in the 3-bet there and then your opponent shoves on you. And you're like, oh my goodness, you've got far from the nuts. There is a short stack at the table as well. So I can absolutely get behind that. We've got 2 amazing hands duking it out over here on a board where they really flop absolutely nothing.
Oh, well, that's the thing. When you limp bad hands in a small blind, you just got to take stabs. You know why? The big blind, if they had a good hand, they will not check back pre-flop. They will always raise if they got the big aces, the big kings, and stuff like this. So you actually, if you're like not a pro, you might be like, oh, I didn't flop anything, just check. But really, it's about reading the pre-flop situation to determine the best play on the flop. And a lot of times it just comes down to position. But when you're playing a tournament, there's also chip stacks too, and that gives you extra information that you wouldn't have in a cash game. So something definitely to think about. Van Blark, I'm going to open. Van Fleet, Ace Jack suited. Is it a call? Is it a 3-bet? You can really see it going both ways.
Come on the button. No, that's what?
Oh, okay. I was going to actually say, I'm giving you props for being a much stronger player today, Roddy, based on your knowledge. But you know what? You're getting it wrong. No, just kidding. There's nothing wrong with 3-betting here. You flop the mid pair. Tough spot, actually. You flop a pair, but you're like, I don't want to action.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, Jonathan Van Vliet is going to feel very good about his hand. He's like, something crazy is going to have to happen for me not to win this spot, okay? This kind of flops the world here. Obviously, he has the back to a straight draw, but he's got the nut flush draw. He's got top pair, and he drills the flush. And at this point, he's got the nut flush. I mean, he already had it, and he even has an out to the straight flush, Nano.
Yeah, the royal flush, isn't it? Yes, it would be the royal flush, the 10 of hearts. That'd be pretty sick. I like Van Fleet's bet on the flop. It's a small bet because, sure, you want to get all the chips in if you wanted to, but the thing is, you want to bet small because say you hit your heart, your opponent might have a hand like king queen, right? It hits 2 pair, and that's why you kind of bet that smaller size when you smash this so well.
That's actually a pretty big bet for how amazingly strong his hand is. I feel a lot of players would maybe bet like a little smaller here, because if you've got the ace and the jack, it's unlikely that your opponent, if they have a flush, that they're even willing to be really calling off that much. But takes it down there on the turn. Van Blaken couldn't really continue, and I think that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to go back to the point you said: is it 3-bet or call? I actually think it's fine to 3-bet the hand, and a lot of people would. But there's nothing wrong with just calling. You just can't fold as long as you don't choose to fold. You're fine.
I mean, Chris Fitzgerald maybe would have.
Yeah, let's keep needling that guy. We'll get him.
Oh, we're kidding, of course. That was my first needle, and my last one as well. Don't worry, Chris. All right, the A7 suited is going to raise it from the button, of course. Curious to see what 20 big wheel 20 is going to do here with the Ace 5 offsuit.
I probably would defend. He might 3-bet it, which would be a reasonable hand to do it with. But sometimes, like these hands, there's nothing wrong with just calling and seeing flop because if you're up against like queens, right? They're going to 4-bet you. You don't get to maybe spike your ace or something. So
No, exactly. I think it makes a lot of sense to just call here,
yep.
especially because Speedy Double has been blowing up pots a lot throughout the evening. So if you do put in the little 3-bet there, then you may have to suddenly call off 3 million chips. You don't want to do that. The turn is another 3. So at this point, both players having 2 pair with the ace kicker. They're probably both thinking they're in the lead. A 4 on the river would be one hell of a river card.
Yeah, that could be a 5 or something, but actually Speedy Double's going to keep betting here. He still thinks he's got the best hand. He knows a lot of straight draws would call like 4. You want to deny those equity. It's probably going to go check now. They both got a good showdown value.
I believe that Speedy Double might, no. Okay, he's not going to get carried away. He's feeling pretty good about his 2-pair ace kicker, and they are going to chop it up. I feel like we don't often get chop pots at final tables here. Oh,
yeah. We do get aces, though. We do see people get aces.
Yeah, we do see aces. And this is an amazing moment. Do you think he's going to limp the aces as well? He's been limping almost every hand.
That's my question, right? Does he limp the aces? He is going to limp the aces. I like this because he's been limping all the bad hands. If he started to raise this hand, I think the way he's playing would be 2 face up, small blind versus big blind. So well done.
All right, well, Ape Styles might actually get to go a little crazier. He's kind of thinking about making a play with the 3-7, and he does. And Jesus is like, yes, please have something good.
Yeah, you still got to go for re-raise with the aces. We know that 7-3 is not going to give more action, but you got to bump it up. Give your opponent the chance to dust off all his chips.
And it's also a good way to put your opponent on like a minor tilt, right? It's like, it's the first time you 3-bet and immediately he makes it a million. You're like, oh, come on. Does he actually have it this time? And like, that's a little bit of mental warfare there. And this time definitely going in favor of Jesus.
All right, so looks like Speedy Double he's solid. He folded the ace-9 there. It's like, you know what? I'm going to let the other guys try to take out Lucas. Van Fleet should be shoving into Jack-6, is going to shove it. Greenwood's just kind of waiting for people to bust, but the thing is, everyone's waiting for him to bust because no one's going to bust right now. There's no way Speedy Double is going to bust with 30 big blinds unless he gets super coolered. I don't see how anyone's going to bust. He needs to find a spot soon.
Yeah, I'm with you. The stacks are just a little too big right now, right? Like if Speedy Double had like 1.8 million, then I'd be like, yeah, it might be a decent idea to wait it out here and see if he does shove his chips in before you do. But at this point, there are 4 guys that are looking at Lucas Greenwood. It's like, either you're going to double, mate, and then you're going to have to double again, or we're just going to wait until you bust. Because obviously there's a $40,000 pay jump going from 6th to 5th. So the fact that European busted already gave Lucas Greenwood $40,000 more. And the jumps, they only get bigger. They often go to 65, 70 at that point. So Lucas is hoping. Now, obviously, I do believe that Lucas is going to shove anything like 7s plus. We saw him fold the 4s, of course. But back then, his stack was even a bit bigger than it currently is. But to be fair to Lucas, he's not getting anything he can really shove with.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Now, Jesus can pretty much limp any hand now once he did that limp re-raise once, right? Because now you just got to be a little bit scared, like, oh, this guy can limp re-raise me. He's going to bet out.
The 10-9 spicy in 100,000 chips. Jonathan Van Vliet is going to make the call with his bottom pair. Turn is a jack. Would you say that's a good card for Jesus to continue?
If he's betting, he's trying to bluff pretty much king high specifically and those queen highs. But I wouldn't say it's a good card. It just seems when someone calls you here and you're the chip leader, they're not going to mess around too much. So he should be giving up. And I like to see Ape Styles probably bet here. You got to deny your opponent equity. Just seems like they did that one bet and give up kind of thing.
Different question. The moment you get called there by the big blind, are you ever thinking he's like, I mean, big blind can have any 2 cards, obviously, at this point. Is there a chance he has a 6? Are you worried about a 6 a little bit?
I mean, of course, you're definitely worried about this. That's the thing. Ranges are wide in blind versus blind situation. If it's a normal raise and call flop, then those little cards, they don't matter so much. But now,
this could be it for Lucas. We're going to have Speedy Double open here under the gun with the ace-queen offsuit. No,
I don't know if Lucas is going to bust. I don't think he's going to shove. I think he's gonna call. That's the vibe I'm getting, right? Because he did that to King 10 earlier
Yeah.
in a very similar situation.
Uh,
You
I
think
mean,
he's
but
gonna
back then he
shove?
had more big blinds though than he currently does. At this point, this is 7 big blinds.
I think he's better off going for the stop and go than shoving. So he does just call here, and actually, it looks like he's just going to give up because the king high board.
He's like, well,
Yeah,
7
you
big
know,
blinds and a dream.
I'll tell you this. I've commentated a lot on Sam Greenwood, and they probably talk a lot to each other, right? Because they're brothers, and they know how to preserve their chips, like extend their big blinds really well. So, for example, like in this spot, right? Like, oh, it's auto shove, right? But they somehow can make their 10 big blinds feel like 20 big blinds and 20 feel like 30, et cetera, et cetera. Like they're not like relentless in like just jamming 20 big blinds. They rather see flops and things like this. And this allows you to kind of stay in the tournament more. Of course, on the flip side, you could have probably won some pots that you might have not normally. So there's always pros and cons to your approach, but they take that similar approach.
The big blind is coming again, though, and he's working with 4.5 big blinds now. And then obviously the problem becomes that even when you double, you're still very short. We've got 3 pretty decent hands here at the end of the table. Speedy Double's going to open it up with the ace-jack. Von Blarkum is going to call with king-queen. And then we got Jesus, our chip leader, with the ace-5. And what
the trips.
that is. Oh, my goodness. Nano.
Van Blarkum is in trouble, right? But, there's a lot of turn cards that might save him. But I don't expect him to lose all the chips, and he shouldn't try and lose all the chips given Lucas is so short. Van Blarkum's going to check call. Does Jesus Cortez go for the check raise?
I do feel that if he... Oh, no,
it's check
Van
raise.
Blarkum.
Sorry. Listen, don't forget what I just said. Now you see the check raise. Now Jesus probably will re-raise again, right?
Okay, now I wonder, because if you're Jesus here, whatever you do, you look so strong, right? Like you're looking so strong. How do you... maybe the best thing to do is just shove. I don't know. That's maybe too strong.
Yes, it's still going to look strong. But the thing is, you got to protect against the heart draw, right? It does exist.
Yeah.
He's going to go for the small re-raise. And Van Blarkum, man,
I think
Lucas Greenwood is saying, please be the biggest cooler ever. There's the call. And actually, given the way the hand's been playing, this pot is huge. And you got to think Van Blarkum is putting this guy on a 5 or a flush draw because the king-queen would be good. Ace-king would always re-raise pre-flop.
Yeah.
Oh, no!
My God. Okay. But I mean, that's going to probably just slow it down. And I actually think Jesus can get away from it now.
I'm not 100% sure because Van Blarkum can easily have a flush draw, given the way the hand plays, and he's not going to get away from this, right? It's a third of.
No, he will call this, but I don't think Jesus would ever raise here. Like I think raising would be insane.
Yeah, he's definitely not raising. Can Big Whale 20 get away from this? This would be very impressive.
I honestly think he can.
This hand could have played so differently, right? Like it could have been Van Blarkum check call that flop. It could have been Jesus betting that turn, and maybe Van Blarkum hero fold. Who knows? But this is a very important pot, and Lucas Greenwood just was hoping for like some craziness to happen. It's pretty crazy already, given their chip stack, though.
What I do like is the sizing here a lot. Because betting 900K into 3 million makes it so appealing for the chip leader to call, and Jesus does make the call. And he's going to see that there is bad news because that river card was not the one he wanted. And now Von Blarkum is back in the chip lead.
Yeah, we got a new back in the chip lead. Big Whale 20 couldn't hold on to it. That was such a big pot and very surprising.
I think the sizing is what did it there to get the call. I honestly think if he bets like 1.6 million or even 2 million, right, and he just goes all in, I actually think that Jesus would make the fold there. But the 900K, you've got a full house, even if it's the weaker full house. It's hard to get away from it, even though I'm sure that it was a crying call, right? It was the kind of call like, oh, what an awful river. But yeah,
of course, yeah. Especially because you could be up against maybe the same hand sometimes, right? So you're like, but sometimes you're like, you can see that Big Whale 20 was like, man, I really am not good here. And then when you call and you get shown the hand, you feel worse actually when you know you should fold it and you see it.
Because you're like, I knew, I knew, he knew. The
And
people at
paid
home
off
will...
like a slot machine. You know?
We've all been there, though. I don't think you're really a poker player unless you've made that call when you know you were beat.
So, you were saying that you thought that Jesus was a little bit tight given his chip lead. I'm curious to see how Van Blarcom is going to approach it. This is a tough spot for Ape Styles. Greenwood's got 4 big blinds. He's still going to shove the 7 deuce suited. You don't want to be done by the 7 deuce, do you?
Oh, well, a 4, an ace, a 5, a 10 now as well. So many outs. 4 ace or a 10 is what we need.
No,
and it's
it's
the
an
ace
ace
on the river. Let's go. Lucas Greenwood gets the double up. He's still by far and away the shortest stack at the
Back
table.
to 900K. I'm pretty sure he had 900K not too long ago.
Pretty sure he entered the final table with 9. No, yeah. Let's take a look at what he actually entered the final table with. 1.9 million.
So, yeah, down swinging. But he's still in it, right? Jesus got the king queen. Does he want revenge on the Van Blarcom? He's going to 3-bet it now. He's going to take the more aggressive approach now that he's lost some chips.
Yeah. I don't think he would have made this move in particular if that hand didn't play out the way it did. I don't want to say like, oh, he's on tilt. I don't want to be too dramatic, but he actually gets it through. So well done. He does have the highest VPIP percentage as well at the table, actually.
He just wanted to 3-bet to guarantee he's the chip leader again. So now he can open up this ace-7 of clubs. Should see Ape Styles come along. They were very deep stacked. So 1-6 is dead. So keep that in mind. So if he's going to hit that set, it's a 1-outer.
Can make the straight as well. Don't worry about it, Nana. That good old 3-4-5 flop with the deuce on the turn. It's a dream.
So worst
Queen
hand
9-8. So Van Blarcom is actually the one who takes the lead here. Worst hand pre-flop and just drills that queen.
Yeah, but when you got the chips, you can splash in one big blind getting such insane odds, right? What, like 5 or 6 to 1? All I know is that Greenwood is thinking, come on, let's do one of those crazy hands in big pots again, guys. Let's just dust off all those chips. Let's have the Jack 10 versus the set of 9s.
King on the turn is probably going to slow the action down a little bit. I don't think Van Blarcom feels fantastic about his hand, but he probably thinks he's in the lead here, or at least he was. At this point, it's really hard to say where you're at in these 3-way pots, final table.
It's real tough because, like, it's actually a really bad card for Van Blarcom because he could easily be behind. But then you're like, oh man, a Jack or 10 and ace. These are so many bad river cards as well. Is going to check to Van Fleet. He's got only the 4 overcards to his board.
He's like, it's the 1-outer. Okay.
And Van Blarcom makes 2 pair. That's the thing. That's even worse.
Yeah. Wow. What an awful river card for Van Blarcom. And this time he does fire the pot size bet. And do you ever raise here? I would just call, actually. Like, I understand it. It's maybe a bit nitty, but that's the chip leader. There's a shorter stack. Obviously, you could be beat by a lot of hands. The Jack 10, any of the highest sets. It's unlikely, but I don't mind the call there. Maybe a bit nitty, but I don't mind it.
It's very, very safe. It's very hard to imagine he's behind, but there is a chance that Van Blarcom was going for like the check raise with the Jack 10 on the turn, so it is very possible. The fact that Lucas Greenwood is so short would make it a disaster if Ape Styles was actually wrong. He raises and is wrong, right? So that was just sick, right? Like, Lucas Greenwood's like, man, these guys just keep splashing chips, but they're just evening out their chips a bit more.
I know.
Come on. Emoji.
Come on. All right. He's going to shove the 8 big blinds here with the King Jack offsuit. Once upon a time, a man said never overplay.
Van Blarcom calls him. Do you see that?
He's right.
That's a sick read because he's been playing pretty solid at tight.
He's still in the lead. We're going to need a king or a jack, and it's the king on the turn again for Lucas Greenwood. Now Van Blarcom needs an ace and an ace only. That's not an ace. And the man just turned 450,000 chips into 1.8 million. Now he's completely back in it.
I want to say, isn't that the chip stack he came to the final table with?
Yes.
1.8 million.
And now he wakes up with ace king suited. Von Blarken probably a little upset about that one. He's like, man, I make a sick call with ace six, and you do me dirty like that on the turn. He's going to raise it up with queen 10 here. But Lucas Greenwood's got some chips to play with right now.
Yeah, we're going to see Lucas. You just can't get rid of those Greenwoods, man. They just keep, they just never bust, right? They just keep doubling it up. So Greenwood is going to jam and get the fold. Now, Speedy Double's probably thinking, are you kidding me? You kidding me? This Lucas Greenwood is still in the tournament. Now he's got almost the same amount of chips as me.
Yeah, I feel like I almost forgot about Speedy Double. Like, he did make a very speedy double in the beginning of this final table. He had his jacks, he had his queens, he had a couple cool moves, but at this point, I feel like he too has been waiting. And then it's been Dolstry in the bottom left side of this final table that's been kind of duking it out with each other and just splashing chips into the middle. And sometimes Jesus takes one, sometimes Von Blarken takes one. Jonathan Van Vliet has been chipping up. Kind of forgot about our boy Speedy Double, who's quite lonely there on the right side.
Well, he is probably going to defend the queen six suited. There's no waiting for Lucas Greenwood anymore. He's got 20 big blinds, so I think you got to go for those chips now. And queen six suited, good odds, right, to call here. Getting 4-1 isn't going to flop anything, but he does pick up some draws. But the thing is, when you're got these 23 big blinds, it's so hard to make plays, right? Like, you're just like, oh, if I check raise here, it's almost all my stack.
Yep, at that point you are. Ape Styles is going to be more than happy with that flop, of course. Flopping top 2 with the 9-7. He's going to fire a...
You see that small bet, though, man. You real tempted. It is going to induce the check raise because, you know, Van Vliet was like, I just want to bet a little bit.
Okay.
That's why you bet small. You induce those bets from those guys. See, the thing is, when you see the back door, you cannot unsee it. Because when you see the queen six, you're like, well, I can pick up an 8, I can pick up a heart, a 5. There's so many cards. I
love it. I actually really love that. Like when you flop strong hands, way stronger than your opponents will probably give you credit for, to go for these small bets, because people often make that small bet to just take it down. At this point, Speedy Double is going to have to make the shameless fold. He's going to pretend like he's got a decision, but there is no decision there. And he's going to be like, man, did you actually have it this time? The answer is yes. Jonathan Van Vliet did have it. I like the way that Jonathan has been playing so far tonight. Indeed. I know you hyped him up last time and was a bit quiet, but he's playing really good.
Yeah, you know, I told you before, he's one of the guys that's been around for a really long time, and he had this big, you know, he had this downswing and stuff, and that's a nice play from Van Blarken. Van Blarken was just like, man, I don't care about this like short stack stuff. I'm just gonna just pressure the crap out of you guys. But I want to go back.
Oh my god.
Okay, I don't want to go back. Let's look at this hand. Greenwood has to shove this hand. Well, Speedy Double's got. Did you see Speedy Double? He's got 1 point. He's got ace queen as well.
Yes, no, that's why I'm like, oh my god, it's ace 4 against ace king, ace queen, and ace queen. Well, Randy, one thing is for sure, nobody's making a pair of aces this hand.
And Greenwood is going to practically shove. But you know,
all right. And
I want to see it happen.
I have a question. What if Speedy Double shoves here with the ace queen?
And yeah, that's the question, right? Go ahead, continue the question.
Yes. What does Jesus do then? Would you ever?
Jesus will always reshove because ace king is just too strong. But I wanted to see, was Speedy Double reshove, Jesus reshove, does Greenwood call off his last 1 million? Because that's why you make those plays, to not put all your chips in, is because if other people might get it all in.
Oh, and obviously the bad news here is that Speedy Double had ace queen as well, which means one of the queens is gone. Lucas Greenwood, his tournament live is on the line one more time. Whoa, that went real fast. Split
Let's just chop it up.
Yep. How did that go so quick?
That was a speedy flop turn river, I'll tell you that.
Running hot. Chopping it up with ace king against ace queen is obviously not bad. Now Speedy Double actually has the aces, and I'm loving the emoji game coming out of our players here at the final table. I love the not sure if, by the way. Like, that's such a funny, the way that they made that is just perfect. Yeah, I love it.
It does it again.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, Greenwood's been the luckiest player, right, at this final table so far. Like, this guy's been getting all in, has been holding, he's been doubling, he's been chopping, he's been getting pay jumps when he probably shouldn't be getting pay jumps. He's so lucky today.
I am loving it. All right, we've got 6-7 going up against Queen 5 here. It's kind of funny. I would like to see a 5. Even though it wouldn't do much. 169.
We got to see Lucas continue here. You got the inside straight draw. You can't defend these hands and check fold. I know, like, if you're amateur, you wouldn't want to check call a straight draw. You're thinking, oh, I don't have a good chance of making it. But oftentimes it goes check, check on the turn, and you can just represent that ace really easily because you would defend pretty much any ace.
Just want to clarify, of course, for all the viewers that was a little issue we had with the stream here and the feed that we are watching. For the players, it was all standard, and they did see the regular flop, turn, and ribbons.
Yeah, no, they're not playing like, what do you mean these cards are coming out so fast all of a sudden?
No, of course, but it's still good to clarify these things. So with the spade draw, Jesus is going to continue piling on the pressure here. And I like that size as well, like 400,000. For Jesus, if he loses it, yeah, kind of sucks, but not the end of the world. For Lucas Greenwood, it's so tough to commit 400,000 chips there.
Yeah, you got Lucas to fold that straight draw, and yeah, first break coming.
First break, we lost our first 3 players within the first 7 minutes. After that, it slowed down a little bit. We unfortunately did lose the European, but 5 players will remain. The action will continue in 5 minutes and 40 seconds. We're going to take a quick break, but not before. I want to tell you guys that if you ever thought of playing some poker over at GG, this is the time. Every day, there is an insane amount of action, no matter what you're looking for. Things, of course, going crazy with the World Series of Poker currently being played over at GGPoker. I've been playing one little event as well. It's been a lot of fun. Of course, you guys can always use channel or code GGTV. And if you're not following this channel on Twitch yet, you should absolutely do it, because there will be a lot of cool coverage as well from some of those WSOP events. We hope you guys are enjoying the show so far here at the High Roller Super Millions final table, the 8th edition. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you guys in a couple minutes.
All right, guys, welcome back. 5 players remaining. And all right, so we got Van Blarcom, Jesus Cortez, Ape Styles, Lucas Greenwood, Speedy Double, and we got Roddy back in the booth. Let's go.
Wow. That was a short break. I feel like our breaks are a little longer normally.
It's all good. You're here with us. We got Lucas Greenwood, who can never bust. Speedy Double is ice cold right now.
Yeah, I mean, he got a couple of great hands earlier on. Does pick up the open-ended straight draw here with his king 10. Can maybe get something done. We'll probably always call here, right?
Well, he might go for a check raise. There's a bigger bet from Van Blarcom. It is reasonable to go for a check raise all in. You do have good equity. You can get some better hands to fold. He is going to go for the check call.
Pairs is 10, but obviously with 2 overcards there, you're not feeling super comfortable with your 10, but at least it's something.
It's hard to keep betting here for Van Blarcom because Speedy Double often has a hand like Jack 10, Queen 10. Oh, he's going to keep betting. Wow.
I'm surprised about that one as well. Would you have a shove here if you're a Speedy Double?
You wouldn't be shoving. You would just be calling or folding because shoving doesn't make sense. It's just, right? Like, you don't see this very often. You really don't see the situation very often. Shoving would work. Is going to call, and is Van Blarcom going to go for the jam? And he might.
But at this point, would Speedy Double ever fold? If he folds, he would be left with 6 big blinds.
But listen to this. If Speedy Double had Jack 10, Queen 10, he'd be shoving the turn, right? So he does give it up. But I was going to say, it kind of makes some sense that Speedy Double always has a 1-pair hand, like a King Jack, King 10 type hand. And I think if he had a little bit more chips, Van Blarcom might have went for it on the river. But again, the 8's a bad card, right? Because like your opponent could have the 9 easily.
Couple of interesting hands here, as we've got Jesus with the King Jack offsuit. Jonathan Van Vliet wakes up with Ace Queen offsuit, and then Lucas Greenwood wakes up with Ace 3 suited. He's going to get out of the way there. Okay.
Yeah, Lucas, he just waits. He waits it out for the 5 big blinds.
King Queen suited is gonna tag along for the ride. No, nobody really flops anything here, and I always love these scenarios because now I want to see who is going to show the most courage in potentially taking down a pot like this, because this is the kind of board where like these 3-chip leaders, like who really has anything here? A 9 maybe, you know, people can have a 9, but the 5 and the deuce are a lot less likely.
Well, it's a pot-sized bet from Jesus Cortez. Wow, that's not expected, right? Usually you see the guys bet like 200K, 300K, maybe 4, but he gets 2 folds from better hands.
Wow, no. They always taught me never to overplay King Jack, and here we are, all these years later. King Jack still getting it done.
Yeah, but that's I like that. I can see the logic to it. The reason is he's like, well, these are 2 bigger stacks. They're probably going to continue if they got ace highs or some little pocket pairs. So I'm just going to fold outright, and so I don't have to worry about multi-barreling.
Lucas Greenwood decided to get a little adventurous here with Jack 8 suited, and this is the wrong moment because our chip leader wakes up with pocket queens and is immediately putting Lucas all in, and Lucas will get out of the way, so he's down to 15. A little more of his territory. Yeah, this is kind of his comfort zone, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's like, well, I had a little bit too many big blinds. Let me dust off 2 of them real fast.
Yeah. I do my best work within the 10 big blinds region. Okay, that's where I really shine. And I will refuse to bust. This is an interesting one. 10-9 suited going for the limp. Picks up a flush draw. But Jonathan Van Vliet, very similar to a previous scenario on a board that was kind of like this. I think it was 3-6-6 back then. Makes bottom pair with his 3.
Yeah, well, Jesus looks like he's got to pick up the flush draw.
He might
tricky
raise,
check raise. Nice.
I had the feeling he was going to raise it. That's kind of the way that he's been playing this. I do feel like there are patterns in the way that Jesus plays. Obviously, it's incredibly solid, and like he's not getting too crazy in spots he shouldn't do. But I feel like, especially with whole cards up, of course, we see everything. I feel like there are certain things he absolutely loves to do. I'm curious to see how he will now continue after that check raise on the flop.
Yeah, this is what you hate to see, is right when you check raise the flop with flush draw and then you don't get there, but he's going to put up that small bet, and this is a pretty cool bet. It's like kind of setting the price for yourself. It still has bluffing chance. It gets you to 10.
Yep.
Nice.
I mean, that's of course the case as well. It's not just the flush draw. He still had 2 overcards to the board as well, which makes his hand just a lot better. And he ends up with top pair and a board where it's like, well, he might be a little scared about the 4 of the big blind, but Jonathan Van Vliet will make the call with just the pair of 3s, and he's going to see the sad news that the 10 did indeed help his opponent. So Jesus now with a pretty big chip lead. For the first time at this final table, we really have somebody who's kind of pulling away from the rest of the pack.
Is this 20 big whales, 20s finally going to ship this 10K Super Millions, right? This is his 3rd time final tabling. He's in prime position. Maybe this is his tournament today. Yeah, his 5th cash in this. This is it does seem like a big whale 20 moment, right? Like he just keeps showing up. It's time for him to shine.
Well, I'd be incredibly happy for him. We gave him a lot of coverage, even on the weeks where he didn't make final table. We've been speaking about him a little bit. Like, shout out to 20 Big Bill 20 for another like 17 plays, a 21st place, something along those lines. Now he's in prime position to potentially take it all for the first time and join the ranks of some amazing players. Because this is not a tournament that's been won by nobody so far, right? Yeah. We had Isaac Haxon, of course, winning it. Michael Adamo winning it twice. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah. So right now, though, doesn't it seem like Ape Styles is like one of the most solid players at this final table right now? It just seems
absolutely.
He came to this final table with this like a strong stack, but like hasn't really gotten crazy, and has gotten more chips than he came to this final table. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. You want position on the chip leader because it allows you to kind of maneuver your stack a lot easier. And we got to remember, Van Blarcom was the chip leader of this final table. He chose to sit out of position against the 2 chip leaders. I'm wondering if he still likes that decision based on how the people are playing right now.
Well, we've got Speedy Double, one of our shortest stacks at the table, opening up here with 8-7 suited. But Van Blarcom wakes up with the pocket 9s. And he's probably going to put in a 3-bet here, indeed, to 975,000.
Yeah, just try and take it down. And you know, some people would just call here, and I think 3-betting is a nice play because those chips are very important, and oftentimes Speedy Double really can't do much about it.
Yep. And oftentimes there are pretty bad flops for 9s as well, right? Like 9s are very strong pre-flop, but it doesn't happen too often that you're loving your 9s on a flop. There's too many bad scenarios out there. This could get quite feisty as well. Jesus gets out of the way with the Queen 10 offsuit, but Lucas Greenwood with 11 big blinds has pocket 8s. Oh, wow. Okay.
Van Vliet has not been out of line yet at this final table, so he knows his image is really good. Gonna go super out of line here with the King 6. And what does Greenwood do with the 2 8s? Because he's thinking, man, maybe they just bust and then I get that page up. Maybe I'm ahead.
Yeah, this is actually a very gnarly spot for 8s. I think it's indeed a shove. You don't love it at first until you see the hand of Jonathan Van Vliet. And now Van Blarcom is as well. It's like, what's up with you, mate? All right, so Mr. Greenwood just needs to avoid the king or the queen on the river. The queen would give him a straight. No king, no queen, and it's another 9. So that means that the 8s will hold up at 2.8 million. Oh, my goodness. You know what would be sick? If Lucas Greenwood with the Danny on the ground and emoji as well of the thank you. Imagine if he ships this tournament out of 4 big blinds.
He should go running hot against Van Vliet.
I'm loving it. You know what I always love? That the pacing of these final tables is so different every week. You know, last week it felt like we were blazing through everything until it got down to like 3 players, and then it just took forever, especially the heads-up match, right? Took a very long time. This week, we came out, we did our pre-show, we did our intros, bam, 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 players bust left, right, and center. A little bit later, we lost the European. And now it's really kind of not, I wouldn't say it's slowing down, but it's definitely slowing down to when it comes to losing players.
Definitely. And, you know, you can see a new Lucas Greenwood open up the King 6 offsuit in the small blind. He's got the chips. Speedy Double was waiting for Greenwood to bust about 3 or 4 times now. He still hasn't busted, and now he's the shortest stack. And Van Vliet, he lost a good amount of chips in that one. Look, that play would have worked if Greenwood didn't pick up a hand, right? Because Van Blarcom has opened up a little bit looser than some of the others.
No, yes, definitely spot on. It was an ace-6. What was it? Ace-6, ace-5 open, or ace-4
Yeah,
even.
ace-4
So
offsuit, I believe. Yeah.
yeah, so it would have worked out, unfortunately. And at that point, you have to make the call as well because Lucas Greenwood had like 200,000 chips more than your raise. So it's like you can't fold, or you're like, I caught with my hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah. At least he had an overcard, right?
Yeah, but still, as we would say. All right. Two hands flopping absolutely nothing. Speedy Double does have the backdoor heart draw.
Let's see. Does Speedy want to put out a little bet? He is
Yep.
going to fire. It's the backdoor hearts. Always gets you to.
Mate, it gives you
fire,
confidence. It gives you confidence. It is so nice to have it, though, even though, like, most of the time, obviously, it will never come true. But it gives you hope, and hope is often all you need in a hand of poker.
All right, so Jesus, he's been limping every spot. Haven't seen him raise yet. Don't expect him to start now, but maybe he'll mix it up.
I might make a min raise once upon a time. No,
Oh,
this time he's
open
just going
folds.
to get out of the way. Yeah, I don't hate that either. I mean, obviously, this time.
He listened to you, Roddy, because Queen 5 offsuit is better than Jack 5 offsuit. And he was just like, oh, Roddy said to fold, just fold the small blind. So he's just like, you know what? I'm out.
I mean, I am a very big fan of the 20 Big Will 20, but I don't think he's listening to me. And I don't even want him to listen to me, Nana, because he obviously knows. I mean, his track record in the High Roller Super Million Tournament Series so far has been unreal. And look at
the
this.
big whale.
This is one of these spots where if you Lucas Greenwood, you're like, come on, why didn't you just call so I can call too? You know, King 10 suited. You'd love to see a flop with that.
This is nice from, Big Whale 20. He's got a really good image. He's been showing up with good hands pretty much almost always. So he can get it done with Jack 9 off. So he knows Van Blarken's been opening some garbage with these medium stacks.
And to be fair, this is also the first time we've really seen him make a move like this. But this is also the first time we really see him as a comfortable chip leader. I know he was chip leading a little bit earlier at this final table, but back then the other two guys were within like a couple of big blinds from him. Now he's really pulling away from the rest of the field. He's closing in on 9 million chips. And it used to be one short stack, 4 big stacks. Then it was like 1 short, 1 medium, 3 big stacks. Now we basically have 4 players that are relatively close to each other and 20 Big Will 20.
Yeah. And it really is. He's playing really well. I think also you can see him adjusting, right? That's the thing. Good players, they don't play the same throughout, right? They know like they got this image and they can make a play here and there. And Jonathan Van Fleet, Ape Styles, try to do that same move with the King 6 offsuit, but sometimes you get caught. And you kind of have that same approach right now. Play really solid and try to make some moves here and there. But right now it's the big whale.
How crazy is it that Van Blarken right now has less chips than Lucas Greenwood? If you would have told me that was going to happen 45 minutes ago, I'd be like, how? From 4.5 big blinds, Lucas Greenwood is completely back in the mix. Amazing.
Yeah, Greenwood he's been opening up a little bit more too, but this is the perfect time for Greenwood to just chill now, right? He's got the chips.
I mean, he's third in chips at this point, and even Jonathan Van Vliet is relatively close to him. Just has like 4 big blinds, well, 5 big blinds more than he does.
Yeah, but no one's really short here. It's just really everyone versus Jesus Cortez right now.
They're not short, but if there's ever a bad 3-bet scenario and a call, then they do become pretty pot committed rather quickly, no?
Yeah, exactly. Jesus got the 7-6 suited. Thinking about 3-betting again. He's going to just defend, so we're going to see a flop. Out flop. But, Ace King, it's got that kind of hand where you might put in 2 bets, and I don't know if the 7-6 can continue for 2 bets.
No, I think you're onto something, obviously. 2 overcards here, and of course, the gutter as well will make a straight with the 10. Then not straight. Let's see what Jesus decides to do. He does have the backdoor hard draw as well. It's important to mention.
It's very important, actually. I think without the backdoor hard draw, you probably might not continue. But you just turned the 7.
All right. Well, that is one hell of a turn card for Jesus. And Van Blarkum, once upon a time chip leader, came in as a chip leader to this final table. Could be in a bit of trouble here.
And he's just gonna bet out big.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know if he should bet out this big, because your opponent does often have a hand like Ace King, the Ace 10 that doesn't have many outs against you. I probably would have bet smaller, especially given how much Van Blarkum's got behind. Van Blarkum might not fold yet, though. He got to think, how often does his opponent have a straight draw here?
I mean, I feel that at this point, Jesus is representing the 7.
Nice fold. Yeah, I would like to see Jesus bet smaller. It's just your opponent often has 4 outs at most, and that's not very many. And you want them to kind of just hang themselves a bit. I'm not in love with the bet sizing, but I think Jesus probably thinking the same thing. Like, oh, I kind of wish I bet a little smaller. Just jams.
Man, I feel for Lucas Greenwood because he keeps getting, exactly, the hands that you really want to call with, hands that you want to play with, but you can't really. So sick. I love it.
My last hand.
With the last hand. Oh, I'm loving the banter here. This is fantastic. But yeah, first the King 10 that he would have obviously loved to play suited, but he couldn't. And now the Queen Jack suited, small blind against big blind. You're like, yeah, please limp, Let's see a flop. It's one of these hands that flops so well. And then your opponent just shoves and you're like, I want to call, but I shouldn't call. But at the same time, I'd love to call.
All right, so Greenwood, 2 7s. Is he going to re-raise all in, or is he just going to call? It's a tricky stack size, right? He's got 23 bigs.
Yep, that'd be a big shove, though. Well, and he is going to make it. And this time he will get it through. And now he's going to give us the running hot. Come on, Lucas. Wow, 3.2 million for Lucas. Meanwhile, a shorter stack at the table, Van Blarkum picks up aces in the big blind.
I would like to see Van Blarkum just call here. I'm not sure if he's going to do it. But with this stack size, you got a lot of fold equity when you re-raise pre-flop, so it makes more sense to just call. He is going to 3-bet it. I would like to see him just call there, try to pick up some chips, but isn't going to happen.
Jesus gets out of the way immediately, so he maintains his 9.5 million chips that he's currently sitting on. I think I'm with you. I think maybe just call and then always check to the initial pre-flop raiser, let him continue, and then you can always shove, right? Whatever the flop is. Who cares?
Yeah, I would have liked to see him just call there. Because when you have 20 big blinds, like you have too much fold equity when you re-raise, it looks super strong. I think if you have like, say, 12 or 13, maybe just shoving's fine because their calling ranges become a lot looser when you're so short. But hey, look at that. Speedy double limped the button, King 7 suited. Jesus Cortez, Ace 3 offsuit. Just like, I don't care if you have 20 big blinds, just ripped it in. Ace 3 off. And hey, I remember you saying, do you remember you saying when someone limps, shouldn't you just shove like any 2 cards because they can never call you? And maybe Jesus has been watching the Roddy streams. Is like, hey, he's onto something.
Well, I wouldn't say they can never call you, but I often feel that the limp is like pretty weak. I got actually that statement came back to haunt me early this week as we do have the 7 here pairing up. I was like a guy who limped. And I'm like, and we're like close to the bubble, 2 spots away from, I don't know, a bubble in one of the hyper tournaments. He limps. I just shove. I'm really big, but he was slightly bigger. Snap called aces. I'm like, I was like, are you kidding me? How do you have aces here, mate? It was like 48 big blinds or something as well, something stupid,
You're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to prove my point. But onto this hand, Speedy double bets the flop pretty big, gets the ace on the river. Man, Van Fleet just ice cold. Yes, he defend a 7 deuce suited, but this is bad.
Hopefully the ace on the river scares him and he will. Oh, he's gonna fire the soup. The one big blind blocker bet. I don't think Speedy double. The thing is that when there's 2 jacks on the board, you're always like, if I raise here,
am I getting debated right now?
Yeah, exactly. But he is still gonna go with the raise. So good job there by Speedy double. And Jonathan Van Vliet is going to have to give it up.
I mean, he might not give it up because he's thinking, man, Speedy. No. He's just. I'm not saying he will. He does make the call.
Okay.
He just didn't think his opponent would ever raise the ace there, and that's actually really nice value from Speedy double. A lot of people just like, I don't want to get debated. Just call it 120K. This is some world class raise right there.
Yep, man. Poor Jonathan Van Vliet.
And he might be out of here. Here's the jam.
At least one of the nines is dead, so less likely that Speedy Double is going to make a set here, but we've got pocket nines against ace eight. There is at least one eight, so now the eights are live as well. That's a bad turn card because now Jonathan loses a couple outs, and the six of spades is of no help. The nines will hold. No, Cole. You just praise this man in the break. You're like, doesn't it feel like he's playing the best poker over here, guys? Ever since you said that, bam, 5 million chips just disappeared. Oh my goodness. And look what we got over here. Aces and queens.
Ooh, yeah. I want to give my shout out to Ape Styles. He played really solid. Just another performance that didn't go so well for him. He did really good. But onto this hand, it's Jesus with the pocket aces. Greenwood, if he puts a little action in here, might make this hand crazy. He's going to call, and this is bad news for Speedy Double because it looks like he's squeezing. So he might think people are playing back at him. He won't be able to get away from these queens.
Oh, and imagine if this actually ends up in an all-in scenario.
This is number one and number two in chips, and these two other guys are short.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going with that. And then imagine if the aces hold and Jesus ends up with like 16 million chips. Can we just wrap it up then and give it to him? Like, make a deal, even though that's not allowed. But let's make a deal at that point.
All right. So the question is, do you 4-bet or do you just call? And the question is, how often he thinks Speedy Double is making plays. Given the way Speedy Double's been playing, I would like to see the 4-bet. He's been kind of just been going with good hands a little bit more often, but he's just going to call. That's 3 spades.
Yep, there is 3 spades. The queen of spades, of course, is on the side of Speedy Double. I would have actually liked to see him 4-bet because I feel like the call looks just as strong as a 4-bet would. But then at least you're getting more chips in pre-flop with your aces. Or maybe you just take it down.
Speedy Double just checked, and I think he's like, am I really going to play an all-in pot right now with these 2 shorter stacks? Jesus has got a bet on this board texture.
Absolutely. How big would you be? Like 1-6? No, he checks.
Wow. And the jack is actually a scary card for both players, I think. They think pocket jacks is very in someone's range, and Speedy Double is actually a really tricky spot. He's just going to check because he doesn't want to bet and get jammed on. He's trying to just pot control this. Jesus has got to bet now, right? Like, there's no spade out there. There's
small one. Speedy Double picks up extra outs, of course, as well with that jack. He now has a gut shot too. That's of no help. So I think you're gonna feel a little better about your aces. I mean,
Jesus has got to go for value here.
Yeah.
The question is, does Speedy Double call it off?
2.1. Oh wow, he shoves. Oh! What a gnarly spot for Speedy Double at this point. That is so tough.
Oh man, this hand could have played. Tough. He might be able to, he might get away, he might not. I don't know. It's a tough spot because it looks.
No. I think it's important to mention that even if he folds, he's still second in chips.
And that's what's important because he might be thinking, look, this guy could have it, but there's a lot to ladder for, right? The pay jumps are huge.
Absolutely. It goes insane basically at this point of the final table with only 4 players left after Jonathan Van Vliet busted. I think he will get away. Like it sucks. It really hurts, but you're still second in chips, and we're playing a final table of the High Roller Super Millions here. And what do you really beat other than a stone cold bluff?
Yeah, it's because if you think about the way the hand's playing, it doesn't really make that much sense for value. I guess a little bit. He's thinking that's why he's not folding yet. He's like, if you had a flush, maybe you bet small on the flop. If you had jacks, wouldn't you bet bigger than like a quarter pot on the turn because you want to protect it? Like he's trying to create a story. He is going to make the big laydown there. That's very impressive. But this could have been over. There's no way Queens would have folded pre-flop. I'll tell you that.
Nope. I'm with you on that one. I do like the fold though, for many reasons. Like I said, he's still second in chips, and on top of that, that is one hell of a scary board. And then don't forget about the fact that Jesus cold called you pre-flop as well, where your play looked incredibly strong. Obviously, the check on the flop was a bit weird, but I really like the play there by Speedy Double. I think he played that hand as well as he got
super saved on like mini streets, right? Like pre-flop could have died, flop could have died, turn could have died. Like It's insane.
Yeah, I especially think flop as well with the queen of spades there.
Uh-huh.
That's gotta feel so good. And then on the turn, you even pick up some extra outs with where every 10 you make the nut straight. Oh, well, second nut straight.
That was no, it's just it was such somehow didn't lose many chips at all, actually, given the situation and the board run out. But Jesus, after that hand, Jesus was like, you know what? He 3-bet the king 9 offsuit. I don't know if you saw against Speedy Double. He's like, I'm going to take this tournament down. You said, is he going to bust someone and maybe have 16 million? It's pretty close to that situation right now. 12 million, 2 and 3.
Yeah. It does feel that 3 people are playing to ladder right now, and then 20 big wheel 20. I would say long overdue is going to win a high roller Super Millions. As Jesus, obviously with 5 cashes already in this tournament series. It's only been running for 8 weeks, guys, and he's got 5 cashes, 3 final tables. Maybe not as impressive as the 2 victories of Michael Adamo, but still incredibly impressive.
Yeah, no, it's like you don't need to be like, oh, who's the best, because like this is still good no matter what. It's over $500,000 for first place. Jesus has actually ramped up the aggression even more. He's opened up the 10-9 offsuit. He's gonna probably just keep betting here. Greenwood's just trying to like hit that little set, isn't gonna hit it. Oh, okay, check. But I don't really see Greenwood betting.
I mean, there is an undercard. You're like, well, less likely that I'm beat. But he will make the chat. And that's actually going to be the straight here for Jesus on the turn.
Yeah, well, he's probably going to bet now. You don't want to see another diamond card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the big whale 20 show. He's the guy that you were excited for coming into this final table, and he's getting it done. Does he have 100 big blinds? It's over 100 big blinds.
Yes, insane. I mean, we've kind of changed the format a little bit of this tournament because, it used to be a relatively short stack at the final table. So they kind of adjusted the blind structure a little bit. And that means that we can get scenarios where somebody will end up with over 100 big blinds at the final table with only 4 players left in the tournament.
Oh, and Jesus gives Lucas Greenwood the walk when Lucas has got the ace queen. He's like got perfect timing right now.
Yeah. I like that as well because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm chip leader. Raise every hand, and then obviously that would have costed you in a scenario like that, most likely. This time, Jesus is like, nope, even if I am the chip leader, I'm still just going to stick to the way that I have been playing throughout this final table and only made really 1 or 2 crazy plays, but they were at the right moments. They worked out for him.
Look at Speedy Double just opening up 10-3 offsuit on that limp. You just can't limp into people, right? You're always weak. That's what you're always telling me.
I didn't always tell you that, man. Just with like certain hands. I think it really depends a lot on the hand. Let's put it like that, okay?
Yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong at all. Just like
no, you like to make fun of me. That's okay. You know what? I deserve it. If I look at my track record over the last few weeks, I'm like, you know what? I deserve all the punishment I'm getting from Nano.
All right, so Van Blarcom's been super quiet. Is he going to limp here if the queen 3 suited?
I think that's a limp hand because it's suited. No, he's going to give the walk to the chip leader. I do agree that, or I understand that as well, because it is scary to limp into the chip leader, right? Because it's so easy for Jesus to just bump it up 2.4x. And it's like, what do you do then with your queen 3 suited? So.
Yeah, exactly. And another walk for Lucas Greenwood. Lucas Greenwood is loving it.
Well, 2.2 million chips. That's maybe a little much for him, though. He's like, I prefer to drop back to like 1.4. So I'm at like 9 big blinds. That's kind of where I have the feeling I'll double one more time. Let's see what happens here when Lucas takes on Speedy Double.
Well, last time he limped, he got raised by the 10-3 offsuit. It was crossing his mind that if he limps again, is he going to get raised again? He's going to go for it. Jack 9's a good hand to take a flop, but there's no reason to raise, and we got a little battle going on.
Action flop. Mid-pair for Lucas Greenwood, but the open-ended straight draw for Speedy Double. And Lucas, then there is the random ace.
The ace is not as important given they're so short. You expect someone with an ace to raise pre-flop. So you kind of ignore the ace a bit.
Yeah, well, if you weren't worried about the ace before with your 10, you're not worried about it now, because now it's even less likely that your opponent has the ace on the board pairs here. Jack 9 will probably still call here, though, right? Like, I wouldn't mind a call.
It's definitely reasonable for Jack 9 to continue here. It can also sometimes be the best hand. He is just going to fold outright, which is fine. You know, you do want to play conservatively still, given Van Blarcom's so short, and we're going to see it all in the call, I'm pretty sure. Unless,
yep, King 10 suited from the small blind. Is that a shove? It is. And King Queen suited with 10 big blinds left. That has to be a call.
Yeah, this is a slam dunk call in this situation. You're the shortest stack. They're going to shove much worse. Here we go.
All right, diamonds or a 10? Well, could also be a chop pot. We have had a couple of chop pots today, but that's not the case yet. So a 10 or a 10 only, or Van Blarken will double up. That is...
Don't think that's enough pips to be a 10. Yeah, that's a fold. I mean, that's a busto for that. Okay, great job showing the 5, Lucas. Well, what's the point of that?
People he's like, I would have won that, by the way. I love it. Nothing wrong with that. No, so all of a sudden now Speedy Double is by far and away the shortest stack. That King 10 is definitely hurting at this point. Like, that's not a lot of big blinds. 6.5, 7? Not even. Basically 6 and a bit. Ace 8 suited here against Queen 9. Lucas can never really play the hands where he's like, just limp. Let me see a flop or two. This is like the 5th time that Lucas had a hand where it's like, it's not great, but you like to see a flop and never giving it to him, man.
Speedy Double. Is he going to call off the Queen 8 suited? I feel like he should. It's just too strong, given he's got 5 big blinds. Here he does make the call. He's in good shape.
And he's in fantastic shape. Just needs to avoid the 4. This could become a split pot too. High cards
right now.
No,
it's 2 pair.
Yep, it's the 8 on the river, and that means that we will actually lose nobody because
we'll lose chips for Lucas. Yeah. Lucas is comfortable though. He's got 10 bigs.
Yep, this is his comfort zone. This is where he thrives. 9 bigs and a bit. Let's get it on.
Jesus thinking about just ripping it in, I think, instead of just raising it. Wow, he just folds ace 4. Now that is a big fold. He just, he goes in these moods, right, where he's just like, yeah, I don't want to play a hand right now.
The 8s are going to shove here against the second shortest stack. Van Blarcom completely back in it. He all of a sudden is now pretty comfortable in second place when it comes to the chip count.
Yeah, he was super short, man. It's just like these short stacks. Oh, nice play for the ace 3. Got to deny so much equity from the Queen 10, right? Queen 10 has like 40% here. Could have tried to get that free flop.
Yeah, you just can't call it off. It's just way too much. Sometimes you want to take a couple seconds, give your opponent the idea that you've got one hell of a decision, but especially with the other 2 stacks being that much shorter than Van Blarcom is. I love that move by Jesus. I actually really love the way that Jesus is playing poker. Because at first I thought it was like, all right, you see a couple trends in his play. I think especially post-flop, that's still the case. But pre-flop, he mixes it up so much.
Oh, no, but look at this 3-way all-in coming, right? It has to be a 3-way all-in.
Yep.
It's going to be a raise, a min-raise, a jam, and a call. A limp.
Limps.
This is dead.
Pre-flop, Jesus is all over the place, and I'm loving it. Lucas, we here with 10 big blinds, is most likely going to shove the pocket 8s. And what do you do if you're Speedy Double?
You got to go with this, and it is. Kings is like loving it.
Oh my goodness! How does this work with the payouts now?
It depends who's got more chips and who wins, and it's a queen on the flop, so Lucas is gonna
and an 8 on the turn. Oh my goodness!
Lucas, how?
Lucas is a monster. He refuses to die. He's the ultimate cockroach at this final table. You will not get rid of him.
Now is the running hot emoji. Time to do it, Lucas. Come on, you gotta. He must feel disgusted. That was so sick.
Poor Speedy Double ends up in fourth place. We'll walk away with, I think it was $153,000. You guys can, of course, see it on the Nano's beautiful face as well.
So
Von Blockham is giving the so confused. He's like, how did I end up being the shortest stack right now? Like, weren't you guys the shortest stacks? What's happening?
You can't get rid of Lucas Greenwood, and Lucas Greenwood was Speedy Double's arch nemesis the whole time, where the guy would never bust, and then when he finally busts him eventually.
This could be more chips. This could be more chips heading the way of Lucas Greenwood. Do you believe in a beautiful Cinderella story of a man with 4.5 big blinds winning the entire thing?
And getting very lucky very often. But Lucas, he's a good player, and he's going to go bet out here. He's going to go for probably 2 or 3 streets of value.
I think it depends a lot on the run out, no?
Yeah, it depends on the run out, of course. Cortez going to call, turns a king. I think Lucas could bet check back river, or he could check call river. Really depends on if he thinks Jesus would ever make a play on this king. Depends if you think a king would ever raise you if you bet. That also is very important.
I wouldn't mind a small bet here. Targeting hands maybe like 7-10 or stuff like that, where it's like
ace-x. I mean, because the 8 is very vulnerable too. He is going to go for the bet and probably check back the river. I don't really see how Jesus can fold the 8-9. He just beats too many hands. It's a blind versus blind. There's 2 spades out there. There's a lot of straight draws. He's going to call.
Well, some of those straight draws would have gotten there. The 9-7, 7-4. Even though 7-4 may be a bit less likely. It's going to go check on the river, and the Jack 8 will be good. 3.2. That's kind of a monster pot. Lucas Greenwood right now at 6.6 million chips. Honestly amazing. Oh,
yeah, Jesus is the big whale's got to be. He's been playing good. Can't let this get to him, right? Like, he could have been massive chip leader, pretty much shipped the tournament with heads up. But you're still the chip leader. You got unlucky. That's okay. He hasn't been falling off the wheels. Still playing very good. Just got to keep it up.
These spots are getting real big right now. Whenever there's a little raise involved, as Von Blarkum just ships a pot that pretty much gives him 1 million additional chips. So at 4 million, he's obviously still absolutely in this as well. This is going to be a pretty epic battle. Like, even if you're Jesus right now and you're the chip leader, you're feeling good. At the same time, though, you were at 15 million chips, and you were supposed to be playing heads up right now with like 18 million chips because of your kings.
Yep. And so getting 2 pay jumps.
Yep, yeah, that as well. The guaranteed pay jumps, indeed. I mean, we have seen bigger blow-ups than this, that's for sure.
But, Jesus is not the type to actually blow it up in a way of giving it away, right? Like, the other one was a little bit, a little questionable the other week. On to this hand. Lucas has been opening a bit. Is he going to open the queen deuce suited? He is. So you can see we got a different Lucas Greenwood with this 40 big blinds.
I actually feel that this is the first time that Lucas can actually show us what kind of poker he would like to play at the final table, because he was just so short before. He really couldn't do much. And now we can see him opening up a little bit, taking down a couple pots here with hands like queen deuce suited.
Yeah, I like that Lucas is opening. Just because of the fact that Jesus Cortez, as a chip leader, isn't as crazy as some of the other guys. Now, he does choose his spots and does get away with some bluffs here and there, but I think because of his style, you're allowed to open the button a bit more with this kind of middling stack than you probably normally would be able to.
Indeed. Jesus is a merciful God as a chip leader. Michael Adamo on the other end is absolutely
every button's opening. It's a very different style. You got to adjust your opponents if you get to these final table. Otherwise, you might be giving away a lot of value.
That is one hell of a flop for Lucas Greenwood, who could absolutely throw out a running hot emoji right now. As those are the flops that your 7-6 suited dreams are pretty much made of. The turn, maybe not as good, but
dreams crushed.
Nah, I think he still feels pretty good about his hand, but yeah. This is when you realize it was just a dream.
It was just a dream for sure. Wow. It's a nightmare.
This is when you wake up at 3:15 a.m. You're like, well, what time is it? Did I miss my school exam? It's like, wait a minute. I'm 35. I don't go to school anymore. Oh. What a run out. Jeez.
I mean, you got to be fair to Van Blarcom. Greenwood let him get there, right? It's not he could have Greenwood could have fired a bet at any other street.
And with a hand that strong, I would have absolutely loved to see him bet on the turn. To be fair, even if that 10 is like, I think you got to continue. There's so many good river cards as well, and there's a chance you were still in the lead, which he was. Of course, with whole cards up, it's a lot easier to talk about poker. We see the ace-9 here of Van Blarcom does make a pair. That was a big bet, by the way, like 500K, right?
Yeah, it was a big bet. But, Van Blarcom's got a different kind of bet sizing strategy pretty much compared to everyone else. He mixes up with big bets and smaller bets. But, it puts your opponent's stack at risk a lot more, which is a little bit scary, too.
Lucas Greenwood is going to go with the limp here, the 10-7 suited. Van Blarcom is like, is this the moment to make a play? Now, let's just check it and see what the flop brings. And the flop brings absolutely nothing for both players.
Lucas going to keep checking. I think he could consider firing a bet, but now the 7 makes it a lot easier. He might just check it now, or bet. It's hard to get called by a worse, right? When you got the 7, he is going to go for it.
King high.
Yeah.
You're like, well, maybe he's got a king and he doesn't believe me here. Well, he's got 2 kings right now. This could get interesting.
The limp.
I like that
Jesus.
as well.
Oh, nice check.
Oh my God. Well, that's an action flop as well. Obviously, with the kings, you absolutely hate to see it, but he probably doesn't think that Jesus has one. They both check it on the flop. There is still that gut shot, of course, for the kings as well. What a hand.
Yeah, this pot could have been so much bigger, too, just from pre-flop alone. And the aces are good.
This is an ugly board, by the way, for kings. Like, on one hand, you might be like, well, he's actually going to fire a bet here. And I have the feeling that Jesus is going to raise it up. He's like, well, unless you've got pocket jacks, I'm feeling pretty good about my hand here. What's the worst thing that could really happen?
Yeah. Just go for a small little raise, hope for a crying call from usually a jack.
1.2, exactly. I was about to say it. I was like, 1, 2, maybe 800,000 chips extra. And I don't think you can call this, right, if you're Van Blarcom.
Well, Van Blarcom's thinking, how often do you have an ace here? And he thinks it's not very often. He makes the call of kings. It's going to feel pretty bad about it. He was just thinking, look, if you had an ace as a chip lead, you probably would have raised me pre-flop. That clearly wasn't true. We saw Jesus actually check back the ace-3 suited. So well done from Cortez. And I think Van Blarcom there just super out-leveled himself. He's just like, I had 2 kings, and how unlucky am I?
But what about the jack, though? Like, let's say you don't put him on an ace. He can always have a jack.
I wouldn't put my opponent Jesus on a jack because you would never expect him to do that. But who cares about that? It's a flop straight and a flush draw and the top pair straight draw.
Can we get a jack of clubs on the turn just for all the fireworks, please? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that would be pretty sick. But I think they're gonna lose. He's gonna lose all the chips anyways, unless some chops come out. Van Blarcom doesn't have many chips left.
But why would he lose all his chips here?
Chop it up.
Well, not yet. Not that soon, Nano. Still plenty of ways for Van Blarcom to win. But why would Van Blarcom ever lose all his chips there? If anything, he would double.
Jesus is going to lose all the chips is what I meant.
20% of his chips. No, that ain't all his chips. Come on, now.
Okay, so do you raise here with the straight? And he is going to go for the small little raise. He is free rolling.
Obviously, king queen would be the better hand here, but it's just too unlikely, especially when you're holding a queen as well. Exactly. The 3 on the river is not going to change anything, and this will most likely be another chop pot. I definitely feel that today is the first time at the final table where we've had a lot of chop pots in big moments. Yeah,
and Van Blarcom's been pretty cold, huh? Right, like the kings get destroyed by the ace-3 suited. The queen 10, he watched 2 guys probably should have busted. The one of them is still in there with more chips in him. It's just a disaster for him.
And this as well, you flop the nut straight and you have a flush draw as well, and even a gotcha to the straight flush draw, and you end up chopping it up. And you're like, what? How did that happen? At the final table, 3-handed. How do you ever chop a pot like that? Well, we got there.
Van Blarcom's like, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to raise it up. I'm done. I'm done with this. No, okay, he's going to check. Picks up a diamond.
Diamond draw is very live. That's about the only thing that's live. Or running trees, but don't really want to put your hope on that. It's going to fire a half-size pot bet here with his diamond draw.
So we're going to see Lucas keep the pot small, check call, most likely. It is reasonable for Van Blarcom to continue firing. He could get a lot of better hands to fold. It is tricky. I'm not sure if you will bet, but the 10 is a reasonable card because it overcards the 8 and the 4, which makes, like, say your opponent has an 8-5 offsuit, no diamond. It's pretty tough for them to continue, but he's going to give up.
Yeah, Van Blarcom is truly running cold. This man
he's gonna get the ice cube real soon. You know that.
Yeah, no, that ice cube is coming. I think after this hand, find out GGPoker a bit. If it's not this hand, it's one more lost spot. Obviously, can't possibly make the call here with, well, not low, but it's pretty close to it. Oh, poor Van Blarcom.
All right, so Lucas, he's going to fold the Jack-7. Van Blarcom just keeps getting trashed in the small blind. It's a funny thing. He keeps getting trashed. He kept giving walks to Jesus, and when he finally gets kings, he goes for the limp, and he just gets punished.
Yep.
Okay, this is it.
By Ace-3. Ace-9 suited on the button. Obviously,
good
pocket
enough.
Sixes.
Yeah, sixes is good enough, I think. It has to. It's three-handed.
Yep.
Here we go.
Well, Lucas makes the call immediately. It's a good old race, of course. Diamonds are live. So far, sixes are in the lead. Man, okay. Queen as well. Come on. Ace, queen, 9. One time for Van Blarcom. That is a pain, but it's a jack. No, it's a king. Oh, and that means it's over. Well, we are heads up at this point. Van Blarcom came in as the chip leader. Will finish in 3rd position. Walks away with $193,000, I believe. Man, he was running cold. No, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah, he was running cold. But the thing is, so we've had chip leaders get to this final table, bust out a lot earlier, like 6th, 7th, and stuff like that. So 3rd place is still pretty good. Coming in as a chip leader, he did get 200,000, 20 buy-ins. That you're going to be a little bit disappointed, but it's not a bad performance. But now we're actually playing for $215,000 difference for heads up. That's a lot. Before, I think we've had matches that was a little bit less, but now they've upped the first prize, and they're almost even in chips here. It's Big Whale 20 versus the guy you can't get rid of, Lucas Greenwood.
Amazing Lucas Greenwood, by the way. We can't emphasize this enough, but Lucas Greenwood a little while ago had 4.5 big blinds and even folded a couple of reasonable shoving hands when he had like 6 or 7 big blinds. He was like, nope, not yet. My tournament life is more important than what I'm supposed to shove according to everybody else. Well, he's still here. He's at 9 million chips at this point, raising it up here with Queen 7. This would honestly be the most amazing victory. If Lucas, like whoever wins here tonight, Nano, like I'm very happy. I don't know about you. If Lucas wins it, we'll never forget it. The guy won it from 4.5 big blinds. That's freaking crazy. Of course, these things happen, but it's very, very rare. And if 20 Big Will 20, also known as Jesus Cortez, wins it, well, the man has made 3 final tables, 5 cashes in 8 editions.
Yeah, it's good to see this heads-up match going on. We'll see how they play it out. Jesus' previous final tables, he got a 5th, he got a 3rd, and now he's outperformed at top 2 right now. And, you only got one person to beat. There's no one to outlast anymore. Now is the time to you got to play the chip EV, play whatever is going to be the best. No reason to make more passive plays. Just go for it.
Blinds going up here as well, 100, 200 at this point. Okay, of course. The deuces are going to raise it up. Jack 7 will call and a 7 on the flop. So Jesus will take the lead and will most likely keep that unless we get a miracle deuce on the turn.
Yep. So there's the small bet. We should see the Jack 7 check call. And club's always nice because sometimes you're like, oh man, I'm not 100% sure if I'm good, but now I know I've got a lot of backup.
I think with deuces, you probably want to check it here.
You do want to check. You just have so much showdown value against ace highs.
7 on the river is not going to change the thing. Of course, on the left side, you guys can see as well that little 2 between brackets means that both these players did fire 2 bullets to get here, but it's been a pretty reasonable investment, to say the least. I'm going to get a relatively big bet here coming out of the Jack 7, of course, with trips on the river, but no action for Jesus.
So he is pulling a little bit away in chip lead, but they got a lot of big blinds to play for, like 40 big blinds roughly for Lucas. 9-7 off. You got to defend this.
Well, that's a reasonable flop for you, 9-7. Mid pair, couple backdoors still alive, always important. Queen 4 flops absolutely nothing. Man, this has been such a cool final table, and it is absolutely amazing that these are the 2 players that we ended up heads up with.
I mean, we did expect the big whale 20 to get far, right? But definitely did not expect the Lucas Greenwood. Here's the bet from Lucas. And Lucas, he plays this very solid grinding style, and I like it, right? Like if you want to play like someone like Lucas Greenwood, the Europeans, those guys, like they don't go too nuts, but they're very good at laddering up and still chipping up slowly.
I'm definitely a bit sad that European so far has not really been able to make the magic happen at the final table. Tried to make a good move one time here today, and it was just the wrong moment as his opponent had like jacks or queens or something. And he's like, well, gotta get out of here. And that really hurt him because that was like 30, 40, well, 30%, I think, of the amount of chips that he had. That always hurts to lose. This could get interesting. King 10 against Ace 7 in a heads-up match. No, Ace is in the lead, but we do have a gut shot.
Yeah, Jesus likely will continue firing here. He's got the inside straight draw, can put a lot of pressure on his opponent, is going to bet half the pot. And Lucas will should be check calling. No reason to raise. Raising just kind of bloats the pot for no reason. Ooh, 2 pair.
Yeah, there are 3 spades on the board now. I wouldn't mind if Jesus bets one more time here, right? And then Lucas Greenwood would raise. Okay, it goes check, check. And now another spade. That is an unfortunate run out for Lucas Greenwood. Excuse me.
Yeah, so he's probably going to check here. Oh, right. Min bet. Okay, interesting. Just try and get the crying call from the ace.
Yeah.
Don't want to let your opponent bet $1 million and make a bigger pot. Jesus, can he go for a raise?
I mean, it's so funny because whenever they bet 200K, it's like either they've got an amazing spade or they've got no spade and they just want this hand to be over with, right? And it's like, can you figure it out? Well, Jesus decides that this is not the hand for him to get in any trouble. Lucas Greenwood will pick up a pretty decent sized spot, and he's getting awfully close right now to truly making this a 50-50 match when it comes to the amount of big blinds they're working with. What a story. 4.5 big blinds. If that's not the never give up spirit, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly. So in heads up play, you do want to defend your big blind a lot. You're getting really good pot odds. Your opponent is raising the button very wide. So your hands like the Jack 8 offsuits, they do actually very well. Well, let's just say you're playing a full ring final table. When someone raises your big blind and they're like in middle position, early position, well, they're only raising good hands. So you can't really defend these Jack 8 offsuits as much, etc. So in general, you want to be playing the majority of your hands from the button as well as the big blind too against the min raise.
You know what's funny, by the way, is that this week we had the exact same amount of sign-ups / buy-ins as we had last week, 210, which was a record for the High Roller Super Millions. So this week, once again, 210 sign-ups. That's good to see. Obviously, right now, GGPoker is alive and kicking with all the crazy World Series of Poker action taking place over at the platform. Of course, there are a million satellites happening at any given moment as well. The daily leaderboard, so you can maybe free roll your way into one of these WSOP events. But it's good to see.
Yeah, and just always has those new bracelet events every day, playing big money. And I was looking. Did you know there's a millionaire maker that's got to reach the final table? They have 9 players remaining, and then I think Daniel DeBoris is chip leading that with 1.5 million up top, and second place is $1 million. And there's guys with like 3 big blinds, 4 big blinds, 5 big blinds, 6 big blinds. We're on to the break. Take it away.
Yeah, indeed. We are here at our second break, and that means obviously once again we are going to take 5 minutes for ourselves I can only repeat everything I just said. There is crazy action happening right now over at GGPoker. A lot of cool ways to find yourself into one of the official WSOP events. Maybe, just maybe, you too can walk away with a bracelet. Of course, follow this channel if you're liking the content, and not just for this show, because we are doing this every Tuesday. The tournament always takes place on Sunday, but we always cover the final table on Tuesday. But besides the High Roller Super Millions, there will be coverage of a lot of the very cool events that are happening over at GGPoker right now as well. So follow us on Twitch. And of course, if you're interested in playing GGTV as promo code over at GGPoker, that's it. We're going to take a quick break, and after that, we'll be back, and we're going to wrap this up. Heads up between Jesus Cortez, also known as 20 Big Will 20. Can he finally ship it, or will it be Lucas Greenwood and a Cinderella story from 4.5 big blinds? We'll see you guys soon. Alrighty, guys, I'm back. I can see that Nano Noko is pretty much back as well. To wrap this one up, can't wait to see who takes it. And I don't even know who I want to take it. Like, I obviously initially would have loved to see 20 Big Will 20 Jesus take it. But if Lucas Greenwood is able to ship this tournament from being down to 4 big blinds earlier, that honestly would be a run that we'll be talking about for many more weeks to come, Nano.
Yeah, definitely agree. And Lucas Greenwood is one of the Greenwood brothers who play these high stakes tournaments, and right now he's showing he's the one that's crushing the super millions. Pocket fours. We're playing about 45 to 50 big blinds. Let's go.
He's going to raise it up. Jesus is probably going to defend a lot of his big blinds, but not this one. The 10-5, he's going to let it go. That means that a few more chips will be heading Lucas's way. Tables are turned. Deuces against, well, Jack 5 suited. Jack 5 suited might tag along for the ride, and that's not a bad flop at all. Picks up the flush draw, picks up a couple of backdoors as well. Can make a straight with the 5, can make a straight with the Jack.
So he's going to see probably a check call. You don't want to be check raising ace king 4 when you just call pre-flop, because you don't represent the aces, you don't represent the kings and ace kings. So he makes the flush. Now the deuces knows they're usually not good unless he's up against queen jack, jack 10. But those hands, I don't really see the deuces betting. So I think you should check.
Fire a small bet, maybe 700K, something.
I think Greenwood should go bigger than 700K because Jesus can easily have an ace, and you don't want to let an ace get off that easily. So
Wow.
It's going to be a pot-sized bet.
That's not going to get called. All right, Nano, 1-0 for you. He's not the chip leader yet, but we're getting awfully close. I'm not sure if he's going to take this one down, though. 9-8 is going to raise it up. Would you have a 3-bet here, heads up?
Yes, I think ace queen is pretty much very top of your range here. So let's go for it. And you might probably just get it in too. But it's hard. It's not like every time you 3-bet, you got to worry about, do I need to get in? Because, okay, this one, there's going to be action here. Jesus going to open.
Lucas Greenwood with the ace-jack suited is going to 3-bet, most likely. And what are 10s going to do then? Will they
And the thing is, it just went raise 3-bets. So, they're more likely to get in because of that reason alone.
It's like, you're doing the same thing as I did, but I actually had a real hand last hand, and I've got a real hand this time. So what are the 10s going to do here? Heads up.
I think it should 4-bet. I think you should 4-bet. It's too strong of a hand, and it's very vulnerable post flop. There's to ship it.
And ace-jack suited makes the call. This could very well be it. An ace-jack, it's a good old race. It's two hearts on the flop. It's so many outs. The 8 is of no good. 10s are still in the lead. An ace, a jack, or an heart.
Big whale, can you do it?
That is an heart. It's an heart. Lucas Greenwood. Lucas Greenwood is now a massive chip leader. Basically, out chipping his opponent 20-1. Ace 6 is probably going to get it all in here against the king 7 suited. Unbelievable.
Big whale, you need to get there.
And he gets there, he flops the flush, but I mean, it's still only 2.4 million, but oh my God, Nano.
What happened during that break? Just freaking went nuts. These matchups are supposed to be really long, and now it's just 2 hands. Oh, it's not over yet. Big Whale 20 is getting very unlucky against Lucas right now.
Did you ship the king 5? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
king
you gotta
5
ship
suited.
this in.
Yep.
You gotta build your stack. Look, this guy's got 18 million chips across from you.
Wow. Ace 3 could just ship it in as well.
Should be shipping in. The opponent's got 12 big blinds. Right now, this is an all-in fest. Oh my God, that's just a wild 2 hands coming back from the break.
Of course, it had to happen on the river as well. Ace 9 offsuit against ace 9 suited. Man, this is an insane Cinderella story. This just really goes to show that your tournament life, as long as you're in it, you can still win it. That good old chip in a chair has never been more true than tonight.
It's a 9-1 chip lead. Lucas going for value, raising small. 8-9 is usually you would think those 2 cards are live, right? But he's going to give it up.
Well, Jesus is not doing the same as Holiday when he was short. He's like, well, I'm over this tournament. I'm going to call it off with 6-4 offsuit. We can see that
Yeah.
Jesus is still really trying to make something happen here with 10 big blinds. Could make the call here with 9-8 suited.
If he dominated, it'd be awful.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus, you're running so cold. It's like, it's funny too. It's the fire versus the ice cube right now. It's the guy with the chips and no chips.
What a
King
run.
3. Yeah.
Might ship this. Yep. He is going to ship the king. And Lucas Greenwood can't really make the call here with 8-5. Maybe an 8-7 or an 8-9. He might just call it to close out the tournament. But ace-4 against 4-10. He could ship the ace-4.
I mean, right now it's been a lot of like simple shoves with someone having some garbage.
I mean, Jesus needs a miracle. He might ship this too, and we'll take it down because 8 deuce obviously can't make the call.
It's getting a little quiet right now, but you know, like, it's expected when it's 10 big blinds, right? Like someone's going to shove, someone's going to fold. Eventually, they're both going to get hands that can go with it.
Yep, we're just waiting for 2 hands. Where one can shove and the other one can call it off. 9-5 actually is going to make the limp here.
Yeah, try and get that free flop. It's going to get the free flop, but Jesus still picks up the flush draw.
Couple backdoors as well.
I like this check. I think you should go for a check raise. You could go for a check call, but I like check raise. I just feel like if Lucas had an ace, he would shove that flop 100%, right?
Well, Jesus picks up extra outs with the queen now as well, giving him a straight.
Lucas thinking about firing, doesn't? Okay, so the jack. It's a bad board, though.
It is a bad board. 4 to a straight. But what is Lucas Greenwood going to do here? Is he going to give it up? Yeah, there's no need for him to get in trouble. So Jesus will ship a decent pot of 850,000 chips. He's back to 2.5 million, but that's still no more than 12 big blinds. Oh, it is more than 12 big blinds, but it's no more than... it's less than 13.
Trapping with the king jack suited here. Just got 13 big blinds. And we've got trip 9s against the flush draw.
I have the feeling all the chips are going to get in here, mate. 2 overcards and the flush draw against trips. One player being ultra short. This has to be an all-in scenario.
Yeah, well, Lucas just called where he check raise. I can really see it going either way. You just smash that flop so hard, but then again, you look like you're bluffing when you check raise. He is going to go for the check raise.
All in and a call. That is my final prediction of the night. All in and a call. No, he just calls, actually. Okay.
So Lucas, what's he going to do? Is he going to bet small? Is he going to bet big?
I think real small. 350.
You don't want to let those flush draws get away. He's going to go for the check. And I kind of like the check because you would check raise bluff this flop. You're probably not going to continue to turn anymore given the stack size. So surprisingly, okay, actually Cortez betting here might cost him the chance to stay in this tournament because Lucas might probably going to go for the double check raise, right? You can't.
Yeah.
You don't expect someone to be calling your check raise on a flop to min bet the turn as a bluff. You gotta think he's got something.
Yep, Lucas is going to raise it up. It's not an all-in raise.
It's a double check raise. It's very rare. It's very rare, Roddy.
Oh, the 6 of spades rolls off at the river, which means that Jesus makes the second nut flush. Obviously, it is a paired board. Well, you're not too worried about full houses over here. You're going to love your king high flush. He's going to snap this one off, and he's got chips again. 5 million? Hey, it's not much, but all of a sudden, it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's 25 big blinds. It's actually quite a reasonable amount to have. The big whale 20 is like, yeah, you can't just take me down like this, man. It's just too dirty, right? Because you got to remember, Jesus had the kings, right, against Lucas Greenwood's pocket 8s and then the ace queen of speedy double, and he lost that hand. And then, you know, he lost that huge hand here of the 10s versus the ace jack suited. He's not out.
Wouldn't that be the sickest final table story of all time? A guy goes from 4.5 big blinds to a 20-1 chip lead in a heads up into taking second place in the end. We're not there yet. Obviously, Jesus needs at least another double to even things out. But man,
2 top pairs here. And check. Man, Lucas Greenwood plays very differently than a lot of other players, and he's actually allowing the pots to not get as bloated as usual.
Small ball poker is still a thing in 2020, Nana.
Yeah, still is. And 10-8 is good. Jesus should keep going for value. There's a lot of little pairs and that Lucas could call with, like 6-5, 4-5, King 6. Lets him off easy.
300K. Lucas will probably make the call here.
Yeah, your kicker is pretty weak.
Wow.
Okay, raise. Just trying to get value from those very thin bets from the 6, the A6. But sometimes you think it's a good play. Oh
my
no.
goodness.
Jesus. Yep. Oh God. He's just out-leveled himself there. Okay, the one thing I like to say is when you put out that small bet, you have to keep in mind you induce raises a lot more. And I think if Jesus bet bigger and then he got raised, I like the fold a lot more. But in that situation, I think that might have been a little bit of a mistake. He should have took more time on that spot to break it down more.
That would have been one hell of a call. King 5 against King 6. Of course, a lot of chop scenarios there as well. Queen 4 suited against pocket kings now. Lucas Greenwood, what's it going to be? A min raise?
I mean, he's thinking about limping or min raising. His opponent does have enough chips to go for the raise. If his opponent was shorter, he should probably limp, and I like that. Queen 4 suited can't go anywhere. And this is bad news for the big. Is this the end of Jesus Cortez?
At this point, you're really not expecting to be behind in a heads-up match. Lucas Greenwood with the kings. Could just fire another bet here. Indeed, he's going to go for the same sizing. 2 big blinds here on the flop. And Jesus Cortez is going to think that with top pair, he should pretty much always be in the lead. Unfortunately, that's not the case when his opponent is sitting on pocket kings.
Yeah, Jesus going for the check raise. That's not good. This is very not good.
I think if Lucas just shoves here, Jesus will always call it off.
Yeah, and I think that's what Lucas is thinking. He's thinking, how strong is Jesus here? And
a 4.
4 on the turn.
Jesus makes 2 pair. Now, of course, there's still a lot of outs for Lucas Greenwood. Every 3, every 8, and the 2 remaining kings. But what a turn card. Oh my goodness. We get so much drama at these final tables, Nano. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's not over yet, right? King still has a lot of outs. He's going to go for the check now. I actually like the check because if Lucas had a queen himself, he would just keep betting. And Lucas will often have a jack 10, jack 9, 10, like those inside straight draws that won't call another bet. You're going to win the chips against a good hand anyways. I like the check. And there's the
snap call.
Call.
A 3, 8, or a king. Otherwise, Jesus will double up one more time. And it's a 10, and that means Jesus will double up. 20 big will 20 is not going anywhere. And he just ran up, was it 1.9 million chips to 7.1 million?
Yeah, we were thinking this is over right after that big-ass hand. And now it's just I was like, man, this heads-up match is going to be really short, like a lot of our past shows. But this one could take some time now that we've got some stack.
What a roller coaster it has been for both players. This has been a pretty insane edition, once again, of the High Roller Super Millions. And we are not done yet.
Yeah, 2 players with not too much. Someone's just got to put 200K out there. They win this spot.
Like neither of them will ever believe that they can win this spot. And for Lucas Greenwood, that's the truth. For Jesus, it's like, your 8 high is pretty good here, mate. He's like, nice, took it down with a bluff. It's like, no, mate, you're actually in the lead.
Value bet.
Value betting 8 high. Oh no, aces.
Well, I mean, Greenwood did have the kings last hand, but he got cracked, so.
Oh, wouldn't mind a 3-bet here, like 1.1,
Yeah. 1.3.
1.2. Hmm. He's gonna get his opponent to fold. Obviously, Lucas hoping there that Jesus had something real, something he actually wanted to play with.
Blinds are up, so stacks are getting a little bit more shallow.
Yeah, 34 big blinds though, right? For Jesus, or even more than that. It's like 38. It's pretty good.
Ace 4
Wow.
just ships it in. He's just like,
Yep.
you know what? I'm not done playing post flop. Let me just rip it in.
It's like, other than this one time, this has been going really well for me. Since the one time was for the tournament, and that was a bit unfortunate.
Cortez gonna open up, gets defended by the Jack-3 offsuit, but Cortez has got 2 overcards on a very connected board. Got the straight draw too.
I think with Queen Jack here, you're definitely okay with betting. If you get called, whatever. We'll see what the turn brings. And if you just take it down, that's always awesome because you've got Queen high at this point. And he's going to ship 1.1 million. He's now over 8 million chips. This is going to be a difficult one to win with 9-3.
Well, Lucas Greenwood has been getting more of the pre-flop type cards. He's going to go for the limp on the button. That's very interesting. I guess he's expecting Jesus to raise his limp at some point, but Jesus really hasn't been that type of player. So I'm not sure if I love the limp from the Ace King, but
this is a very underwhelming Ace King hand where you're like setting up the trap. Flop the ace, he will never expect it. It's like, well, that's it. Oh, okay. Pocket 3s against pocket aces here. Now this could get interesting.
Yeah, depending on how the hand this hand could play very differently amongst different players, and with the limp, that could get it a lot feistier too. Lucas probably going. Oh, he might check too. I'm not sure what he's going to do. Threes plays pretty terribly. Is going to raise.
Jesus is like, yes, have something good. Please have 10s, jacks, 9s, 8s, whatever you want, mate. Have it.
Oh, it just calls. I like the call though, because normally when you limp there, you're expecting your opponent to kind of bluff at you a bit. So it does make sense to just call. Face so strong.
I want to see a 4 or a 5 of hearts on the turn.
4 or 5 of hearts would give Lucas Greenwood extra ammo.
Unfortunately, that's not the case. And with the pocket 3s right now, this is obviously not a very beautiful looking board anymore. I know you can say that if he would have had an ace, but obviously Jesus did make the call. So you never really know what you're up against. You're not feeling great about your 3s. That's why Lucas is going to check. Jesus is like, how much will he call here?
Minimum.
Yeah. 1 big blind, would he call that? Yes, he will.
Yeah, it's actually the perfect size, right? Because I don't know how much more it would have called. I think Jesus might go for a big bet here because Lucas Greenwood could easily have a 9 given the way the hand's been playing.
And of course, he just made it seem like he's kind of weak on the turn where he only fired 1 big blind. And it's like, well, I actually would have loved to see Jesus like take a little more time there on the river. Because I often feel like whenever they are like going for a bluff, they don't fire it out immediately like that, the pot size. But of course, you can say it can look fishy too to bet pot size that quick. But it make it seem like he had a real decision to make. 5s against 7-5 at this point. Man, we are pretty well. We're not there yet, but if Jesus somehow wins this spot with a 7 on the turn or a river, or just by betting a lot, he would actually take the chip lead probably.
Yeah, it's a bit of a grind right now, but you know, it's actually Jesus. Every time he's picked up a big hand, has kind of played it a little bit slow, and just because there's a chance the aces and 3s could have got a lot more chips in somehow pre-flop. Also, remember when he had the aces against the pocket queens with speedy double, and he didn't get all those chips. So he has been slow playing these big hands, but it hasn't been paying off to the maximum so far.
There's a pair of jacks here, and he's going to take this one down immediately as well. So he's back above 9 mil again. Plenty of big blinds, of course, on both sides here. So I think we're kind of over the let's shove every ace, every king scenario at this point. Because like if Jesus wins an all-in scenario here, I mean, then we're basically back to where we were, but then the tables are turned, and then Jesus is the one with a 20-1 chip lead.
So 2 marginal hands. They both pick up something, but nothing to be too happy about.
Well, you're going to be a little more happy about that one if you're Lucas Greenwood, who now has the straight. He's like, what can I bet? 400K? 500K maybe?
I think that should get Jesus to consider calling. Oh, he is going to make a nice fold there. But, usually when someone bets on the sport, they kind of represent a 9 or nothing. But nice fold. Oh, no. Jesus, you're going to need that jack so bad. Because this is going to go 3-bet, and it should go jam from Jesus.
Lucas Greenwood with ace-king here on the big blind. Is he going to 3-bet? Look at the clock, by the way, there. Only 2 minutes left. He is going to fire in the 3-bet, and the ace-jack is Jesus feeling confident enough to ship it in one more time. Normally heads up.
This might be it. I just don't see how ace-jack could fold here, especially against such a good player who's going to 3-bet bluff probably. Like, ace-jack is just too strong. The blinds went up. You got 30-something big blinds remaining.
He is going to shove it, and Lucas Greenwood will make the call. So Jesus needs a lot of help. At this point, he needs a jack. At this point, he needs a 10. A 10, or it's all over. And Lucas Greenwood.
Do it, please.
Oh, my goodness. It is all over.
GG.
Yep. GG indeed. 20 big will 20 will finish up as the runner-up. Another final table, another cash, and he got so close to winning it. He was a river card away. But our winner today, the 8th edition of the High Roller Super Millions, played over at GGPoker, is Lucas Greenwood. And that's not only amazing, but it's particularly amazing when we go back to this final table. A couple hours in the past, Lucas Greenwood was by far and away the shortest stack at the table, had less than 5 big blinds left. There were 3 big stacks on the bottom side of this final table that were all eyeing Lucas Greenwood. When is this guy going to bust? So we can duke it out together. Lucas said, I ain't busting, guys. Wins the entire thing while being by far and away the shortest stack at a certain point. Amazing, Nano.
Yeah, of course, big shout outs to Big Whale 20, Jesus Cortez. We know his real name. Like, he won up his performance again. He did get a 3rd before, but 2nd is his best performance in the Super Millions 10K. I mean, you were talking about this guy in the past. Like, just cool to see him make it back. I thought he was going to ship the tournament, right? He had Lucas Greenwood in. He had him with pocket kings against pocket 8s, spiked that 8 on the turn and that all in when Lucas only had like 10 big blinds or so.
Yes.
And then he eventually got the 10s against the ace-jack suited. It was a coin flip, but the river was a flush for Lucas Greenwood. And, Cortez actually in this heads-up match just got really unlucky. He just kept on getting situations like ace-jack versus ace-king in that situation. There's nothing you can do about it. And let's talk about Greenwood, though, right? Like, Greenwood, he was a short stack. Like you said, everyone was eyeballing this guy. Is he going to bust? Speedy Double just kept looking at Greenwood, right? But Greenwood kept doubling up. He got it in bad many times. He got chops. He got there and things like that. But Greenwood doesn't mean Greenwood is playing bad when he gets it in bad. He's playing his good poker, solid poker. And sometimes you do have to get it in bad. It just happens. But, you got to have a chance. You got to have a hope. Chip in a chair. And eventually, he took this tournament down just from playing his game. And he's one of the best. He's not just some luck box that got really lucky. He's actually a very good player, one of the Greenwood brothers. And it's cool to see him make a deep run. Like you said, like a little bit of a Cinderella story, right? Like that 4.5 BBs to 500 to 30K USD for him.
I always say you should never give up, no matter how short you are. We've seen it, of course, before as well. I remember that one World Series of Poker final table. The Swedish guy, like 11, 12 years ago or something, I don't know. He came in as short a stack of the final table, and he managed to ship the entire thing. Tonight, amazing. Obviously, there's always some luck involved when you can make a comeback like that, when you can make a run like that. But I think in the end, a fantastic story and very well deserved for Lucas Greenwood. Played some really cool poker, heads up as well. Obviously picked his spot right. Big Will 2020 does walk away with $315,000. So that's, I think, a pretty good consolation prize. That's his biggest score, of course, when it comes to the High Roller Super Millions. But boy, oh boy, one card away from winning the tournament in which you've done so well. It's got to sting a little, Nana.
Yeah, it's definitely got a sting. And the thing is, he got in so good to... Remember, if he won that King's hand against Speedy Double and Lucas Greenwood, Kings versus Ace Queen and Pocket Eights, he would have had 18 million chips to 2 million chips against Van Blarcombe, right?
Yep.
But now, it's just a freaking disaster for him. But second place, still pretty good, right? It's still
exactly.
Pretty good.
I mean, he came in, was it, at this point, I think, was it second in chips? No, he came in as
maybe third or fourth, right?
Yep,
yeah.
He came in as third. So, if you come in as third in chips, you end up second. Most of the time, you'll be like, yeah, I'll probably take that. Now, there were many moments and many ways that Jesus could have won this entire tournament. Just wasn't meant to be. Today, it was meant to be for Lucas Greenwood, who just refused to die. La cucaracha. The cockroach. Just can't get rid of him, Nano. He stuck around. Well, it was honestly awesome
at least Jesus didn't call off the 6-4 offsuit, right, to finish his tournament. He went out with the ace-jack at least.
I mean, he even ran up his chip stack again. He was down to 1.9 million. He got up to 9 million. At that point, it wasn't 50-50, but if he would have won one more hand at one point, it would have actually been dead even 50-50. So put up one hell of a fight. Well, matey, that's going to be it for this week's edition of the High Roller Super Millions. Do you have any final words before I close it out?
Nothing really. I'm happy to do this for you guys every week, and I'm excited for next week.
Well, we are very happy to have you here, Nana, of course. Thank you for all your great insights throughout the weeks. I'm going to work on the bet sizing thing again. Don't worry. I'll do the homework.
You're doing good.
I'm going back into the lab right now tonight, I promise. No pizza for me. I would like a pizza. It was a pleasure as always. Guys, of course, if you like the content, make sure to follow this channel here on Twitch. A lot of really cool poker shows are heading your way. And of course, make sure to check out GGPoker with all the WSOP events currently happening. Bracelets are being given away left, right, and center. It is kind of difficult to win one. But hey, Lucas Greenwood just shows us. If you can win this tournament with 4.5 big blinds, why couldn't you win a bracelet? That's going to be it for us. We'll be back same time, same place, which is 8 p.m. Central European Summer Time next Tuesday. That is, of course, 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 11 a.m. on the West Coast. And it's very early for Nano Noko because he's in Australia. And that's a Wednesday morning. See you guys. Have a beautiful morning, evening, wherever you may be. And hopefully see you next week.